It's really important. You need these guys. They're there for all of us.
You're welcome, everybody, and thank you.
For Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. I'm Luke Mathers with your Election Day headlines for Tuesday, November 3rd. Wisconsin's polls opened at 7 a.m. and will close at 8 p.m. If you are in line to vote at 8 p.m., they have to let you vote. President Trump returns to Wisconsin for Election Eve rally in Kenosha, his fifth trip to the state in recent weeks. President Trump's visit to southeastern Wisconsin came as a flood of coronavirus cases continue to hit Wisconsin, and the death toll now exceeds 2,000. Wisconsin mayors keep an eye on safety ahead of Election Day. The U.S. Department of Justice is sending personnel to monitor for compliance with federal voting rights laws in 44 cities across the country, including Milwaukee. Mayor Tom Barrett said Monday afternoon that he had not been told which of the city's 173 polling locations the monitors will be at. Forecast high of 66 degrees, low of 46 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to a special election night edition of the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Welcome. KTNF 950 AM in Minnesota. Welcome. Devil Radio 92.7 in Madison. Welcome, Dominic. Welcome, Luke Mathers. Welcome to you all. Man, it's an exciting night.
It is exciting, Crudy. Wisconsin polls have just closed and apparently too early to call. A lot of too earlys to call tonight.
Well, I'm going to make some early calls. But not quite yet. Not quite yet. First and foremost, want to thank our broadcast partners, Teamsters Local 200 and the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. They're helping us to join you on the airwaves. And Luke Mathers, our newsman, is going to keep an eye on the Wisconsin results as the early returns start coming in. But a couple of the results that we can tell you about already. We've already seen a few of the Republican senators win re-election in their respective states. Some disappointing results, Tom.
Yeah.
John Cornyn going back to the Senate from Texas, it would appear. Tom Cotton going back, Tom going back to the Senate from Arkansas. Mitch McConnell going back from Kentucky.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, that one, a quick call. Amy McGrath apparently could not overcome. Now, here's a race that is still far too early to call, but Tom Tillis trailing the other guy, Cunningham, in North Carolina. And we just found out Cunningham had a alleged affair or something. And his polling went up.
It's that bad for Republicans in some parts of this country, and the Trump faithful showing up in droves, same-day voting. A lot to overcome for many Trump voters, but so far, apparently, no real surprises.
Currently, the electoral count as it stands, 80 for Joe Biden and 48 for Donald Trump. 80 to 48.
Can we just call it now?
Yeah, let's go to the bar.
COVID, call it a COVID, just call it on.
One of the early surprises so far, the state of Ohio. Joe Biden currently up about 53 to 45.7%, about 250,000 votes. And these, about 50% of the returns in from Ohio. Now, I don't think a Republican can win the White House if they can't win Ohio. I mean, historically speaking, that has been a pivotal state for Republicans, and currently Joe Biden up big, or at least by 250,000 votes. Now, a couple of the hopeful states, looking less hopeful, perhaps, for Joe Biden. We now know that currently Biden is trailing Trump in Florida. And Trump only won Florida by about 1% in the last electoral.
51-48 right now, Trump leading in Florida.
And the Cuban immigrant populated Miami-Dade area apparently has not turned out well for Joe Biden, underperforming. So Florida might be a disappointment. That one might get left off the electoral map for Joe Biden, but Trump has been playing defense in Florida. He won Florida the last time. Other states where Trump is currently playing defense, Joe Biden leads in Texas. Last I saw, about 250,000 votes in Texas. Biden leading in Ohio. Biden leading North Carolina currently by about 219,000 votes. A similar margin in the Senate race. And currently Trump leading Georgia. That again, a stretched state for the Democrats. But my understanding, Fulton County and most of Atlanta has not come in yet. So Georgia currently being led by Trump by about 174,000 votes. And here's a shocker. Trump has won
South Dakota.
Now, does South Dakota have the highest coronavirus rates in the nation?
3 electoral votes. Yeah, I think North, South Dakota, and then Wisconsin.
We're number 3.
Oh, come on, Wisconsin. You can do it.
So the excitement has begun, and I'm very excited. So, Dom, early stuff we've seen so far. Perhaps Biden's not going to win the state of Florida. We'll see. Perhaps there's still an opportunity for him to overcome. The biggest state on the map that has been taken off the map so far, no shocker, New York. New York went for Biden. And that's Trump's home state. Oh, I forgot. He abandoned.
Florida's the home state now, Michael. Don't
prefers
forget.
the lack of taxes down there. Anything else you've observed early in the evening? Obviously, we've just seen the polls close here in Wisconsin and Minnesota, where they're listening to us live now on KTNF. But any early observations you've had? Any early surprises?
It's so hard to tell at this point. We're still getting the rolls come in, and depending on the county, can be very populous, could not be. So you gotta kind of lean on the professionals that are actually tallying the numbers as they go. But right now, with 55 up to 50%, 57% in Ohio reporting, Biden is up 52 to 40, call it 47%, a couple 100,000 votes in Ohio.
And that's the early surprise as far as you're concerned.
57% and with a lead like that, yeah, that's encouraging.
I think the early lead, at least currently, the early lead for Biden in Pennsylvania. I mean, that's a very important state. Biden doesn't need to win Ohio, but Biden absolutely needs to win Pennsylvania, Michigan, and of course, the Badger State, Wisconsin. And we the Democrats couldn't possibly afford to lose Minnesota. I mean, I've already, in my heart, I put Minnesota in the blue column. They did hold serve last time in Minnesota, but that is one of the target states on the map for Donald Trump.
Pennsylvania's, they're only at like 7 or 8% in it. It's way too early to even determine how that's going to go.
Statewide, though, currently, Joe Biden at 64%. And Trump at 35%, a difference of 325,000 votes and only 1 million votes cast.
And only 15% of them counted. So, we're just going to have to let this ruminate, going to have to let it kind of, boil a little bit. Let's see what the numbers as they come in. But, as positive as we have been and trying not to curse it, Curdy, it's still a fight, man. Nothing is done. Nothing is showing me right now that this is a huge blue wave in this electoral cycle.
Well, you've got to see the important states and understand the blue wave, quote unquote, will wave in state by state, beach by beach across the nation. But North Carolina, that could be a bellwether.
Yeah.
Currently, Biden leading in North Carolina. If that lead holds up, that could be reflective of the conservatives turning more towards Joe Biden in this time of international pandemic and crazy presidency. one would hope the electorate's starting to wise up at some point.
North Carolina, it looks like it's 50 to about 48% right now. Biden leading.
I'm sorry, say that again.
50 to 48 right now. Biden leading North Carolina.
Now, CNN, and we're here in Election Central in the Broadcast Bunker 2.0 in Madison, Wisconsin. But apparently Connecticut has been put in the Joe Biden column.
Imagine that. The Democrats leading in the Northeast and, the central states going towards Trump. Very red down there.
Right now, near as I can tell, it's Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, West Virginia, Oklahoma, and Arkansas, and of course, South Dakota, as we mentioned, that are in the Trump category, in the Trump column. And it's most of the northeastern states that have already closed their polls and made their announcements, including, New York, very prominent on the northeastern part of the map. A lot of smaller states, gotta go state by state. I saw the Delaware, Biden carried Delaware, so that's encouraging.
And Vermont?
Vermont. Yes, Bernie Sanders brought it home for Biden in Vermont. I promised you I would, Joe. So Joe Biden's got Vermont going for him.
Which is nice.
Currently, Biden at 80 electoral, Donald Trump at 51. And the states that we're keeping a very close eye on include Ohio, where Joe Biden currently leads by about 140,000. Pennsylvania, where depending on whose electoral math you're looking at, it's 300 or 200,000 that Joe Biden lead currently. Now, Trump's leading in Georgia, but we haven't seen very many votes out of Atlanta, my understanding. And the perhaps disappointment, Florida. A Florida man, or many millions of Florida men voting for Donald Trump today. He currently has a modest lead, perhaps not an insurmountable lead, but I would say in probability, Florida remains in the red column.
And if it went for Trump, that would, kind of show what a blue wave would look like. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. So it may be a long evening, Michael.
Slow down, man. Wait till the upper Midwestern states. My hometown, Madison, Wisconsin, announcing record turnout.
Oh,
and we're going to help carry the state of Wisconsin for Joe Biden. And you are listening to a very special election night broadcast. Devil's Advocates. Dom Crude. No fancy, Brian. We got Luke over there. Luke Mathers, our newsman, producing us and keeping an eye on some of the local races. We're going to check on local races around the bottom of the hour, around 30 minutes after the hour. Each hour, we'll check in with the local races in Wisconsin and locally in Minneapolis as well. We thank our local sponsors, Teamsters Local 200 and the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. They're our broadcast partners tonight. And the political party, it is right here. And I'm still celebrating like we've already got a 3-touchdown lead, because in my heart we do. And at the end of the night, I think it's going to be a blue wave. I hope you are feeling the blue wave with me. If you're in line, keep voting. The rest of us, grab something cold, grab a dance partner, join the political party. Devil's Advocates taking you all the way till Joe Biden is anointed president sometime after 11 o'clock Central Time.
844-967-2789. Got lots of special guests joining us this evening. Make sure you continue to tune in, call in, get excited. Let us know how you're feeling. 844-96-PARTY.
For more information, go to herbalaspect.com.
The Devil's Advocates.
We've got U.S. Senator Ron Johnson, our friend, live via phone. Ron, in all seriousness, if this was Barack Obama, you'd be screaming, "Stormy, stormy, stormy," from the rooftops.
You're too young to understand this excuse. This would be the Sergeant Schultz answer. I know nothing.
But as the chair of the HISGAC, sir, Homeland Security Governmental Affairs Committee, you could get to the bottom of this, could you not, Ron?
I see nothing. I know nothing.
Making radio great again.
From Baraboo to Horicon, WTTN 1580 AM is News Talk Radio built for the 99%. Rural Wisconsin's home for Devil Radio.
Warning, listening to the Devil's Advocates may expose you to opposing views.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Happy election night. It is exciting. We are going till midnight. We're going until Joe Biden becomes the next president of the United States, and you can be part of this political party. Call us at 844-967-2789.
Now, Luke, you tell us the Associated Press is ahead of both CNN and MSNBC. What does the Associated Press have the current electoral count at?
Yeah, the AP currently has Biden at 119 and Trump at 92. So I don't know exactly which states they're coming in that aren't, but I got New Mexico already called for Biden. If that one's in your guys' column or not. But Illinois is already there too. And we got a handful of the southern states just got called in Trump's column as well. So yeah, slightly different map. So I was looking at those.
Trump's got both the Dakotas now, apparently. Oklahoma, Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, and what else? Indiana. What the hell's wrong with Indiana? I mean, I knew West Virginia was going to be in his
Mike
column.
Pence. Mike Pence from Indiana, right?
Yeah, that guy.
Okay. Well,
We had former Senator Joe Donnelly on our fine show the other day.
any other questions? I mean, really? What's wrong with Indiana? Mike Pence is what's wrong with Indiana.
Well, he didn't make Indiana like that.
Yeah,
You know, what
Indiana
came
made
first,
him.
The Pence or the egg? Oh, God, Donald Trump winning the state of Wisconsin. Currently, early voting tabulations about 5,500 to 3,200.
1% in.
I know, but I never want to see Trump ahead on the scoreboard.
I'm seeing 3% of Wisconsin numbers.
3%. Luke, what do you got?
It's more even than that so far. I got 46,119. Oh, there. Okay, there was just a huge jump now. So now there's 4%. We got 60,000 votes for Trump and 51,000 for Biden.
And do we know where those votes are coming in from? Otherwise, you're just being premature.
This whole
blue
thing is
areas are
premature.
Madison and Milwaukee, and then you got a few of the wild counties looking there. Douglas County up in the north. We got Oconto County outside of Green Bay. So it's kind of scattered what precincts so far are reporting.
Come on, Wisconsin.
When Madison, Wisconsin and Dane County, Wisconsin starts putting up their tallies, Joe Biden's going to take a big lead, and then he's going to go on to win the state of Wisconsin by 10 double digits.
Oh, Crudy's so confident.
I am. And right now, currently, Trump's up on the board by, a few hundred votes. But we'll overcome. Joe Biden will overcome. If not, I blame you. No, I think it's going to be a good night. And, it takes a while for all of this to kind of play out. And you can't freak out when you see the formerly Trump states coming in as Trump states once again. Because you need 270. And Donald Trump's playing defense all over the map. I mean, Florida shouldn't be a contest. Florida is a contest. And Georgia currently looks like it's going back into Trump's column. But God forbid he loses North Carolina. And Ohio, if he loses Ohio, I would think it would be very logical to see states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin to follow. And if he loses those blue wall states that he won the last time, it's all over but the conservative tiers.
North Carolina, according to the Washington Post, 88% of the vote is in. Biden up 50.5% to Trump's 48.4, over 2% there. In the Senate right now, Cunningham at 48.7%, Tillis at 47.2. About 86% of those votes have been counted.
So North Carolina is going to get called in the next hour or two. And that could be the harbinger of what is to come. The blue ball.
Let's make it happen.
Tar Heel blue, perhaps. Well, we'll see. Pennsylvania currently looks like Joe Biden's doing quite well, at least of the votes they've announced publicly. State of Ohio, Joe Biden, at least apparently doing quite well so far. Wisconsin, the numbers quite early. Michigan, I'm looking forward to Michigan's numbers starting to come in here. Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania are really the three states. And Donald Trump's playing defense in all of them. And if you believe the polling, Wisconsin perhaps has been the one that has turned the most towards Joe Biden. But if you multiply that by a Michigan turned blue and a Pennsylvania turned blue and an Ohio turned blue, it's going to be over in the upper Midwest. Those will be insurmountable numbers. I mean, you can have the Dakotas. Give me the upper West Belt states. Give me the Great Lakes states. They're far more important electorally.
No doubt. And let's not forget earlier today in the great state of Michigan, my home state, apparently some robocalls being sent out to the Flint area, informing people to, you know what, go vote tomorrow because the lines are too long today. I mean, what a terrible circumstance. The Attorney General Dana Nessel tweeted out today, obviously not true, but these are the kinds of efforts that somebody is putting the bill to suppress the votes, and specifically in this area, Flint, Michigan.
You are listening to an election special on AM 950 KTNF, Minnesota's progressive voice, and Devil Radio 92.7 right here. We're broadcasting from the Election Central broadcast bunker here in Madison, Wisconsin. We'll take you all the way up until midnight tonight. And the Wisconsin polls have closed. The Minnesota polls have closed. And of course, polls have closed all across the upper Midwest. Michigan, Ohio, we're watching those states very closely. Pennsylvania, of course, and North Carolina. When they call North Carolina for Joe Biden, you're going to know it's going to be a long-ass night. And it doesn't come by 20 electoral, 20% in a state like North Carolina, but 1.5, one vote, that's all it takes, baby.
The first domino to fall.
It would be. That would be a key domino to fall. Currently, Georgia, Donald Trump holding serve in Georgia. But give me the Tar Heel state. That will be the beginning of the end for Donald Trump. We'll see. Come back with us.
A lot of people are talking about it.
Want to get your opinions, your punditry, welcome. Rampant speculation certainly called for an election night. 844-967-2789. And our pal, Matt Flynn, the twice elected chairman of the Democratic Party of Wisconsin, a gubernatorial candidate in his own regard. He joined us next live via Zoom. Come back with us. More election night special, Devil's Advocates. You're listening right now.
You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 and WTTN 1580 AM. And that's pretty cool.
Wash your hands, avoid sick people, and touching your face. There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. Brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Stream the Devils and Progressive News and Talk 24/7 at the Devil's Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. That's DARNWI.com. That's DARNWI.com.
Hi, this is Dom from the Devil's Advocates inviting you to join us on Patreon.com. Patreon allows for our audience to access exclusive programming not available anywhere else and gives you the ability to directly support the greatest radio show ever. History's patrons have supported the works of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Monet, and now with your support, the Devil's Advocates. So please go to Patreon.com and search the Devil's Advocates to pick your subscription. That's Patreon.com and the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever.
The Electoral College tally so far. I'm Tim McGuire with an AP News Minute. On the latest AP Election Day map, Democrat Joe Biden leads President Trump in electoral vote count, 119 to 92. It takes 270 Electoral College votes to win the presidency. Trump has an edge in the popular vote, 22,800,000 to 21,600,000. In the latest states to close their polls, President Trump wins North and South Dakota, Wyoming, Louisiana, and Nebraska. Biden posts victories in New York and New Mexico. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell wins re-election. In this from WHAS, he tells supporters he expects the nation to defeat the coronavirus pandemic.
We have everything we need to defeat this terrible virus and come back stronger. We have the most resilient institutions, the most blessed land, and the greatest people in the history of the world.
I'm Tim McGuire.
How can we help each other and the planet during these historic, uncertain times? Did you know that there are millions of farmers in developing nations using harmful practices that not only make it hard for them to make ends meet, but also hurt the environment? The good news is there's a solution. For more than 30 years, nonprofit Trees for the Future has planted over 180 million trees and helped tens of thousands of farmers achieve independence and stability so that they're able to weather any storm. Trees for the Future trains farmers to rethink farming and use trees to flatten the curve on environmental harm while improving their nutrition and income. Let's come together to build a better future for communities in need and the planet. Learn more at trees.org/radio. That's TREES.org/radio. This message is sponsored by Trees for the Future.
For Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your Election Day headlines for Tuesday, November 3rd. New COVID-19 cases in Wisconsin have increased 542% over the past 2 months. The Wisconsin Department of Health Services is reporting there are 48,366 active cases of COVID-19 in Wisconsin, which DHS noted is enough to fill Miller Park in Milwaukee and leave over 6,400 people in the parking lot. Rittenhouse bond set at $2 million. Rittenhouse was extradited from Illinois to Wisconsin to face numerous charges, including first-degree reckless homicide. During his hearing, a judge found Rittenhouse to be a flight risk and imposed a $2 million bond. Tune in to Devil Radio tonight for special election night coverage with the Devil's Advocates from 8 p.m. until midnight. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
The Devil's Advocates. We drink when we toast. We toast when we drink.
Welcome back to a special election night edition of the Devil's Advocates radio show, AM 950 AM listing in Minneapolis. You're listening on Devil Radio 92.7 and worldwide streaming at DARNWI.com. We're joined right now live via Zoom by our pal, Matt Flynn, an attorney, a twice elected Democratic Party chair in the great state of Wisconsin, and a big Joe Biden guy. Matt, welcome back to the show, man. What do you think so far? What races are you watching closely, sir?
Well, I mean, obviously the presidential. I was glad to see Hickenlooper won in Colorado. I don't like the fact that Susan Collins is doing as well as she is, and in Maine. But I think that I like what Joe's doing in North Carolina. You obviously don't like Florida and Georgia. And Texas is amazing, but I mean, basically it's coming down to Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. I like what Joe's doing in Ohio. But, you know, Michigan, we got to keep an eye on that Michigan thing, even though there's only a small amount of the vote in, Trump has a lead. And this fellow James, who's running against Gary Peters, has a lead. So, you know, Michigan, we got to bring in. But I think it looks like we'll bring in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, I hope. So I'm just keeping an eye on all of it, guys. And
now I see that
victory.
South Carolina has been projected for Trump, and currently Jamie Harrison, the senatorial Dem candidate, going off against Lindsey Graham. He's trailing Graham by about a dozen.
Yeah.
So far in the Senate count, that'd be a possible pickup, maybe a lot to hope for. Lindsey Graham, obviously, encrusted Republican senator, but you know, some of the expecteds have already come to pass. Tom Cotton easily reelected. Mitch McConnell held serve. Amy McGrath didn't have enough to overcome. I like the fact that Cunningham's currently leading in North Carolina over Tillis. That would also be an important pickup for the Dems. But right now, you've got the Alabama race, the Democrat trailing in that race by about 19,000. Trump also won that state. Currently in the South, the senatorial candidate's not doing so well. Even some that we were hoping would do better. So far, they're not final results, Matt, but so far, the Dems not doing as well as we would hope.
Right. And it looks as if, if we lose Alabama in the Senate, if we lose Jones in the Senate, if Collins holds on in Maine, we've flipped Hickenlooper in Colorado. We may flip Tillis out of his Senate seat in North Carolina. But this is not going to be a blowout either way. And I think the path is still this. It's Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. And the other thing, keep this in mind, Joe's doing very well in Texas, but Latino voters are not giving him the same margin that they gave Hillary Clinton. And remember, Nevada has a lot of Latino voters. So he has to take Nevada because Hillary Clinton took Nevada. So if he can take Nevada, take Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Joe's the new president. If he drops any one of them, he's got to pick up something else.
Now, Matt, when you talk about Latino voters in Nevada, there are different sort of Latino voters than the South Florida Cuban Latinos that seemingly have found new purpose for Trump's machismo, perhaps. But, he is much more popular amongst the Cubans than the Mexican Americans that are voting in the Southwest, I suspect.
Well, except for one thing, I agree with you. And I'm just giving this very analytically because I think Joe will win. But if you look at Texas, Starr County is right along the border with Mexico. It's overwhelmingly of a Mexican-American population. And I think that Biden only beat Trump there by 8 points when normally they'd win by 25 points. So there's something, it's not just the Cuban thing. Something, I think the party's got to pay a lot more attention to Latino voters. The Cuban thing is obviously, the refugees from Cuba were always Republicans. I understand that. But it's something to keep an eye on. Keep an eye on Nevada and keep an eye on Michigan. But I'm very heartened by the performance in Ohio. And I think we're going to be doing well in Pennsylvania. And then Wisconsin, we got to bring it home. And I think we will. So in other words, this won't be a blowout. Guys were saying, oh, it's a huge blowout. No, it's not going to be a blowout. But I think we're on track.
Now, earlier today, we had the opportunity to talk to you during our regular show between 2 and 5 p.m., Matt. And you talked about the two viable candidates were really Biden and Bernie. And it was a big field of Democrats. But there was a compromise that was made because Bernie Sanders did have more appeal, apparently, with Latinos. But Joe Biden certainly had a stronger base with especially Southern blacks in South Carolina. Is that a compromise worth making, Matt? You gotta pick your favorite Dem, and obviously Joe Biden won the nomination. But would Bernie have perhaps done a little bit better with Latinos than Biden did?
I don't know. I mean, in the primary is one thing, but he would not have done better among Cubans. And I don't think there's any evidence he would have done better in Starr County on the Mexican border itself. The other thing is Joe Biden had very, very strong mainstream labor support, very, very strong support among working class white voters. And Bernie had some support too, but Bernie would have been hung with this label as a socialist, and he was a socialist. He was a socialist, and I respect him for it. But that would not have beaten Donald Trump in this election, in my view. We nominated the guy who is the strongest candidate. The question is, this country is very badly split, very racially split. Down in South Carolina, Lindsey Graham ran ads in which he photoshopped his opponent's picture to make him look blacker than he is, and like a caricature. And Purdue in Georgia did that with Ossoff and racially characterized him with a Photoshop picture. The Republican Party, and then of course they have the QAnon candidate in Georgia. The Republican Party is deliberately exploiting racial division, deliberately doing it. And South Carolina started the Civil War. They're the ones that attacked Fort Sumter. You know, Virginia didn't attack Fort Sumter, neither did Alabama. It was South Carolina. So we've got to look real here. But the short answer is I think Joe can win, but he's got to win Pennsylvania, got to win Wisconsin, and I hope Michigan, otherwise Arizona, got to hold Nevada. And if he gets Ohio, then it's game over.
And one quick thought here in the state of Wisconsin, Robin Voss used Photoshop, or one of his campaign operatives did, to remake a sign being held by his Democratic opponent, Joel Jacobson. And it was turned into a sign that said something to the effect, defund the police. And I thought, that was a little dirty tricks. That's a little Willie Horton going on, of course, because that district very close to Kenosha, Wisconsin, where there was the Jacob Blake shooting and, of course, the resulting violence in the Kyle Rittenhouse vigilante shooting of 3 protesters. So obviously some of this Southern strategy is still being incorporated by the Republican leader of the assembly in the state of Mississippi here.
Right.
Wisconsin, that for those not informed.
Well, you remember when Nancy Pelosi ripped up the State of the Union speech and all that? Well, the Republicans photoshopped a picture of her doing that, and they substituted the U.S. Constitution for the speech. So at some point, nobody puts out a photoshopped picture of Robin Voss in a Nazi uniform, that kind of thing. But at some point, somebody's going to get sued. And frankly, this business of defund the police and altering the sign, that is subject to suit, even in the context of politics.
And we've just been informed, final Milwaukee results not expected until 5 a.m. Central Time. So we'll have final results. We'll be on the air, Dom and I, until 5 a.m.
I'm not clear about that.
You're going to stay up late with us?
Yeah, get me some pizza.
844-967-2789. Our phone calls. Our guest right now, Matt Flynn, attorney and friend of the Devil's Advocates. Matt, thank you once again stepping up and joining us. Is there any one state in this country right now, Matt, that you would look at as an indicator for things going well or poorly for Donald Trump?
Well, Florida is going well for Donald Trump. He's ahead by 250,000 votes, and there's not that much more. I would say that Ohio is going badly for Donald Trump. He won by 8 points over Hillary Clinton, and Biden is blowing through her margins all over the place. The question is, can he hold on? What's happening is it's a standoff, is the Democratic and the Republican states from last time. But I would look on 3 states. I would look on Michigan, Nevada, and Arizona, because Michigan right now, I'll be honest with you, I do not like to see some of the early votes in Michigan in the Senate race and in the presidential. And Nevada, I have no reason to know anything because it's 2 hours behind us. But I did not like some of the vote out of Starr County in southern Texas. And then when it comes to Arizona, Kelly is doing well, but I'll tell you what, it may be that Biden's going to have to win Arizona if Michigan doesn't come up the way we want.
Well, it would appear that Donald Trump will hold serve in Florida. And since we've been talking, actually the margins in both Ohio and North Carolina have both narrowed. So Biden currently leading in both those states. They were both Trump states in 2016. But it is a very narrow lead. And before the end of the night, there's no promises that Biden's going to hold serve in either of those 2 states. He may not pick up any of the Trump Eastern Seaboard states, Southeastern states. Doesn't look like he's going to win Georgia. So, of course, as you mentioned, Upper Midwest, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, they become paramount.
I think that if Biden wins Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, he's president. If he loses Wisconsin or Michigan, he's got to hold serve in Nevada and pick up Arizona. And all of that's possible. And the fact of the matter is that in Ohio and North Carolina, he is ahead, but a lot of the same day stuff from rural counties hadn't come in yet. So, this is a nail biter that Joe Biden can still win, and in my judgment, will still win.
Matt, with regards to Michigan, Wayne County reporting only 3%. Of course, in Detroit area, there's a lot of votes to come in yet, but some of those outlying counties, Oakland County, Macomb County, still pushing pretty red and reporting about 40% and 35% respectively. So still a lot of information to come out of Michigan, but let's see some of that the city votes come in and see how that changes.
I agree with you. That's a good point. Let Detroit come in, and if they have good turnout there, and he carries Michigan and Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Joe's president.
844-967-2789. We've got a listener to our special election night coverage. Dave from Evansville would like to be part of the political party. Dave, say hi to our pal Matt Flynn.
Hey, Matt. How you doing?
Good, Dave.
Not an awful lot bad, actually, so far.
Not yet.
Not yet. I've already started drinking, though, so we'll just have to wait and see.
How's the stress level, Dave?
You know, it's 8:40 on election night, so I'm a little nervous, actually. I expected Florida. Several weeks ago, I predicted that Florida was going to come our way, and apparently it's not going to do that. So, another perfectly good plan shot to hell.
I'd rather see Biden win Pennsylvania. He's currently up in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
That a more important state to my opinion. And I think electorally speaking, Trump was playing defense on a lot of the map, Dave. And at some point, some of those states are going to fall. They can't all fall for Trump. I just don't believe the guy can keep rolling snake eyes over and over and over again.
Yeah, I don't believe it either. I'm with Matt. I think we've got this, I think we're going to have the Senate too. And I was really hoping for a blowout, but even if we get it by a slim margin, I think Biden and his crew are ready for the legal challenges. And as far as I can tell, the precedent currently is if you lose the popular vote but squeak out some kind of a win, you get 4 years in the White House.
Will there be lawsuits? Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Come back.
Yeah.
Our pal Matt Flynn, Devil's Advocates, special election night coverage. Are you a small business owner or professional that would like to be featured in your own weekly Ask the Expert radio segment or show on Devil Radio? Let us help you in your business team with our broadcast professionals to create the right show or segment, setting you apart as the go-to professional and as an expert in your field. All shows and sponsored segments are podcasted. It will be professional broadcast quality. Packages from $395. Call Devil Radio today at 608-819-TALK.
Stream the Devils and progressive news and talk 24/7 at the Devil's Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. That's DARNWI.com. That's DARNWI.com.
Hi, this is Dom from the Devil's Advocates inviting you to join us on Patreon.com. Patreon allows for our audience to access exclusive programming not available anywhere else and gives you the ability to directly support the greatest radio show ever. History's patrons have supported the works of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Monet, and now with your support, the Devil's Advocates. So please go to Patreon.com and search the Devil's Advocates to pick your subscription. That's Patreon.com and the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever.
Dave from Community PC here. Now more than ever, we're relying on our computers to stay connected with family and friends. Looking for that perfect holiday gift for a family member who struggles with keeping everything up to date? Every day, more and more people are discovering the peace of mind that comes from a Tech Protect plan from Community PC. And it makes the perfect gift for anyone you need to stay connected with. Check out COMMPC.com to learn more. That's COMMPC.com. Community PC. We know what makes computers happy.
Hi, everybody. This is Santita Jackson of the Santita Jackson Show. Every Thursday morning at 7 o'clock, say hello, somebody, and join former Bernie Sanders co-chair, former state senator Nina Turner on the Santita Jackson Show on 92.7 FM.
Taking on Ready Whitey Talk Radio on both sides of the dial from Cross Plains to Cottage Grove. Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Come on, man. And with the local DVC news.
The Devil's Advocates. Radio for nasty women everywhere.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, special election night coverage. You can be part of this fine show. Just pick up the phone and dial the party line, 844-967-2789.
And we appreciate our broadcast sponsors, Teamsters Local 200 and the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. And we greatly appreciate our buddy Matt Flynn for sticking around, the twice elected Democratic Party chair, great state of Wisconsin. Well, Matt, we're all counting on you to turn Wisconsin blue tonight. Buddy, will you deliver for the audience?
Consider it done. Consider it done. I think that as I have looked around the state, talked to people and talked to them today, Biden is ahead. This business of Trump shy voters is overstated. I think there was very, very good turnout in Milwaukee and in Dane County. And I think in a lot of other areas in the state, I think in the WOW counties, Waukesha, Zaki, and Washington, around the collar around here, Trump is going to underperform. His coziness with Putin and his racial division and his crudeness and a lot of the threatening violence, threatening the concept of a peaceful transition of power. I think we hold Wisconsin, and I think we hold Pennsylvania. I just want to make sure we hold Michigan.
Well, currently about 30% of the tally in the great state of Wisconsin. Donald Trump leading about 397,000 votes to Joe Biden's 351,000, about 52 to 46%. So what's going on? Is it time to panic?
Right, but you said that Milwaukee's votes aren't going to come in till 5 a.m., right?
Yeah, that's
yeah. The New York Times is reporting that Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers said he expects to know the results on election night or by the day after. Officials in Milwaukee, which
those
could
are two different days, Tony.
Which could be the latest to report, have said the results could take until between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m.
Joe Biden currently up about 5% in the great state of Pennsylvania, about a 55,000 vote margin, currently about 20% of the vote tallied in Pennsylvania.
Right. Remember something, when Scott Walker ran against Tony Evers, Walker was ahead and everybody went to bed, and then they found out that 30,000 Milwaukee votes hadn't come in. There's a lot of votes in Milwaukee, a hell of a lot of votes.
Early absentee ballots, 31,000. Neil Albrecht, the elections commissioner in Milwaukee County, brought them in sometime after 1 a.m., man, correct? And that held up as the margin of victory. The current governor of the state of Wisconsin, Tony Evers, defeated the formerly awful governor of the state of Wisconsin, Scott Walker, as mama called him.
Right, but not by a huge amount, but he did the job by enough. The point is that Milwaukee's votes have got to come in. And when you look at the 30%, where are they from? We'd have to look at the counties they were from.
Yeah.
And who's underperforming and who's not underperforming.
Well, currently, Luke, the newsman, tells us they're pretty spread out. We do know that the Dems have picked up one senatorial seat. John Hickenlooper, former Dem presidential candidate turned Colorado senatorial candidate, apparently has picked up a seat over Gardner, the Republican. That's one in the good guys column, right, Matt?
Yeah, no, that's right. And, Hickenlooper, I think, is a former governor, very, very popular guy. His great-great-grandfather was a general in the Civil War, a very famous general. And Hickenlooper would have been a good vice presidential nominee, but he got talked into going back and running, and I'm glad they did, because that's a nice piece of insurance.
Now, here's a very troubling one. Peters, the current senator from Michigan, trailing the Republican, James. Peters at 38%, James at 60%, 20% of the votes. And in Michigan, well, that can't be good. That's a startling number. Of course, it depends on which districts we're seeing, but that's still a startling number. The Black conservative are currently beating the white Democrat.
Right. There are two things to keep in mind over there. One is, I don't know where in Michigan. Remember when I talked about I was concerned about Michigan, that was one of the reasons, but I do not know how much of that is Detroit vote. I suspect not much. And secondly, Peters is a very good guy, but he's a very quiet personality, sort of lackluster. And I think he can pull it out, assuming that a lot of the Detroit vote is still out. But Michigan is not a foregone conclusion. That's all I'm saying.
No, certainly not. Florida might be. It looks like Donald Trump may prevail in Florida. Currently, Trump has flipped the margin in Texas. Currently, Trump leading Texas by about 170,000 votes. He's at 50, Biden at 48%. Again, they put resources into Texas, and I'd love to see a blue Texas, Matt. But did Joe Biden squander resources south of the Dixie, the Mason-Dixon line, when he should have been in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan?
Yeah, well, that's interesting because at the very end, remember, he did go into Cuyahoga County to Cleveland in Ohio. So he knew something that others didn't, that Ohio could be in play. But they spent a lot of time in Florida, a lot of time in Georgia, not much in Texas, although Kamala Harris did go down to Texas, a lot of time in North Carolina. And, Hillary Clinton was criticized for spending a lot of time in places like North Carolina and Arizona she couldn't win, and ignoring the upper Midwest. And a case can be made. I mean, look, Monday morning quarterbacking is great. Every NFL game I've ever seen, I knew what kind of pass I would have thrown, except they didn't hire me to throw it. And you could make the case that Biden should have camped out in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. The hell with Georgia and North. Give me a break. Give me a break.
Make that case, man.
Yeah.
Hey, we got a cot in the other room. We could put Joe up nicely right here.
Man, and granted, we still have, according to Washington Post, New York Times, Wayne County, Detroit area, still at 2 or 3% reporting. So nothing has come in there quite yet. Can Biden still pull it off if Trump holds serves, if Biden loses Michigan?
Yes, he can. If Trump holds serve everywhere, and including Michigan, but Biden can break him in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, then I think Biden has to hold serve in Nevada and maybe win Arizona. But yeah, he can still do it. The thing about Biden is there's like 20 ways he can do it. With Trump, he had to win Florida. He did it. He has to win Pennsylvania. If he doesn't do that, then he's in a bit of trouble. Texas, come on. The last guy that carried Texas was Jimmy Carter, I think, in 1976. Come on. Texas was never realistic in my view.
Matt Flynn, our good friend, the twice elected Democratic Party chair of the great state of Wisconsin. It will encourage you to know Joe Biden is taking the lead in the ongoing tally of the state of Wisconsin. Biden up by about 6,000 votes in the Badger State. Matt, thank you, man. Have a great night. We'll check in with you sometime after Joe Biden is anointed the president of the United States. I predicted that won't happen until after 11 o'clock Central. I'm sure you'll be long in bed by then, man.
Thanks, Matt.
That's okay. Some other time, guys.
Appreciate it. Matt Flynn, our good friend. Come back with us. James Santel, former U.S. attorney, and our buddy. More of the special election night coverage. Thank you. Teamsters Local 200 and the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. More Devils. We'll be right back.
Good.
Stream the Devils and progressive news and talk 24/7 at the Devils Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. That's DARNWI.com. That's DARNWI.com.
Hi, this is Don from the Devil's Advocates inviting you to join us on Patreon.com. Patreon allows for our audience to access exclusive programming not available anywhere else and gives you the ability to directly support the greatest radio show ever. History's patrons have supported the works of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Monet, and now with your support, the Devil's Advocates. So please go to Patreon.com and search the Devil's Advocates to pick your subscription. That's Patreon.com and the Devil's Advocates, the greatest.
Hey, Jim, how are we doing?
I am doing well. How's the sound on your end?
You were sounding like you were coming through loud and clear, so that is
Wonderful.
good.
Herbal Aspect is a local black-owned small business. For more information, go to herbalaspect.com.
Burning the midnight oil.
We're listening to
right? They're not quite
WTTN
midnight yet.
1580 AM Columbus.
Not quite midnight yet, but we will be burning that midnight oil. We're going to get there.
Always
You
streaming
are.
at
It
Yeah.
feels that way, right?
Yes. Any songs?
I'm Tim McGuire.
selections?
The polls have closed in most states.
No,
Some
I'm
results
always
will be
into
predictable,
Motown.
others will be tight.
Let's see. What's
AP Sandra Magani has this.
As the first polls closed, there were predictable victories.
It's a large catalog, but I can pick something if you like.
I
New
trust
York and
you.
Virginia.
Okay.
It's too
something
early to
zippy
call
and
key
energetic and
battlegrounds such as
wonderful.
Florida,
All right,
Georgia,
sounds good.
and Pennsylvania. The president began the day upbeat, telling Fox and friends he'd do better than 4 years ago,
I think we have a very solid chance of winning.
and then was subdued at his campaign headquarters.
Winning is easy. Losing is never easy. Not for me, it's not.
Biden says he's superstitious about predicting races, while he's hopeful.
There's just so much in play right now, and there's such overwhelming vote out there. We'll see.
Sagar Magani, Washington.
The AP reports Joe Biden wins Colorado and Washington, D.C. In the Associated Press electoral vote tally, Joe Biden leads President Trump 122 to 92. It takes 270 electoral votes to win the presidency. Trump maintains a slight edge in the popular vote, 27,500,000 to Biden's 27,007,000. Senate Majority Leader, Kentucky Republican Mitch McConnell wins re-election over Democrat retired Marine combat pilot Amy McGrath. In this from WHAS, McConnell dismisses efforts to reform and change the society.
This is no time to tear down statues of our founders and heroes. This is the time to follow their example. This is no time to declare war on our institutions because one side is angry that the framers made it hard to achieve radical change.
McGrath campaigned as an outsider. In other races, Republican Mike Rounds is reelected to the Senate from South Dakota. Cynthia Lemons, a Republican, is a new senator from Wyoming. This is AP News.
How can we help each other and the planet during these historic, uncertain times? Did you know that there are millions of farmers in developing nations using harmful practices that not only make it hard for them to make ends meet, but also hurt the environment? The good news is there's a solution. For more than 30 years, nonprofit Trees for the Future has planted over 180 million trees and helped tens of thousands of farmers achieve independence and stability so that they're able to weather any storm. Trees for the Future trains farmers to rethink farming and use trees to flatten the curve on environmental harm while improving their nutrition and income. Let's come together to build a better future for communities in need and the planet. Learn more at trees.org/radio. That's TREES.org/radio. This message is sponsored by Trees for the Future.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Stream the Devils and Progressive News and Talk 24/7 at the Devil's Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. That's DARNWI.com. That's DARNWI.com.
MaxInc Radio, this is Rokker. Hey, Jimmy, I've been invited to the White House, and he wants me to bring some of that guacamole? What if he double dips, Jimmy?
Double Dip with MaxInc on Devil Radio 92.7 FM. In-depth interviews, new music, and plenty of throwbacks. Saturday, 6 p.m.
Right back to the beginning, Rokker.
Madison, you say what? Each weeknight from 5 to 6 and Saturdays noon to 2. Don't miss out on a single day of the Earl Ingram Show right here on Devil Radio 92.7 FM, 1580 AM.
Once again, the American public has some reading to do. In a 29-page indictment today, Americans need to take a look at page 6, paragraph 20, and here come those important 8 words: to interfere with the 2016 U.S. presidential election. That is it.
Jim, I'm going to make a confession on behalf of the panel. Dom's not going to read the indictments.
Come on, maybe.
The Devil's Advocates, political commentary from the back of the class.
For Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your Election Day headlines for Tuesday, November 3rd. Wisconsin's polls opened at 7 a.m. and will close at 8 p.m. If you are in line to vote by 8 p.m., they have to let you vote. What to expect on Election Day? Long lines due to social distancing and a long wait for results. Counting ballots is expected to take significantly longer than usual this election because of the unprecedented high volume of absentee ballots. More than 1.7 million absentee ballots have already been returned as of October 30th, twice as many as the total cast in the 2016 presidential election. Those ballots could not be counted until today, Election Day, regardless of when they were sent in. A seasonably warm day today, forecast high of 66 degrees, low of 46 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to special election night coverage, Devil's Advocates Radio. That's Dom. I'm Crute. And we got a fine guest joining us here in the 9 o'clock Central Time hour. Former U.S. Attorney James Santel. He is a friend of ours. And if we're going to have to sue someone later, Jim, we just may need your services, counselor. Welcome back to the show. Thank you for staying up.
Mike and Dom, always a pleasure to be with you on night classes in the law school. So delighted to be here tonight.
Thank you, Jim.
Now, Jim, it's perhaps not the electoral landslide that I would hope for, at least not yet. And that may eventually come. But right now, it looks like it might be very, very close. And my question of you, Jim, there are some states that have had some recent suits, states like North Carolina, states like Pennsylvania. Of course, we know about Wisconsin's lawsuits. But, Jim, where could you envision there being post-election litigation going on?
Sure. And so many of the topics that could potentially be the focus of litigation in the federal courts, perhaps also in the state courts, here in Wisconsin, other places where the election is hotly contested, could focus on the same kinds of things. That is the timing of voting. Every so often, even this evening, we've heard little blips, nothing significant yet, about irregularities in the way votes are being counted, the ways in which things come in. Again, as you indicated, it's fairly early in the evening, even at 9 o'clock Central Time. And those kinds of things that people might identify as peculiarities are probably not that yet, but could in fact be the focus of litigation down the road if in fact there is perceived to be large disenfranchisement of people who are, for example, waiting in line. We haven't seen that yet, but those kinds of things could be the focus of litigation. Again, running into the federal courts, perhaps running into the state courts. The one that I would look at particularly, usually on election day, is those situations where you've got voters who are standing in line quite literally at 8 o'clock and have not yet been permitted inside, and perhaps there's a very long line. The rule, of course, the law is that if you are in line at 8 o'clock when the polls close, you have a right to vote. If there's a perception that the line is very long, there are more people coming in, you could also run to a judge and say, listen, you've got to keep those polls open to ensure that everyone who wants to vote is enabled to do that. But my stronger sense is we're going to see more issues related to the timing of the counting. And if in fact, whether it's in Wisconsin, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, other places, this does go Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it just gives you more opportunity to identify problems. And that's regrettably sometimes what lawyers do in bringing cases, but it could also be a proper identification for the courts of problems that do need to be addressed by the courts. And so I think timing is the big issue in the hours and days just ahead.
Jim, what if one of the candidates, and I would presume this would be Donald Trump, but what if one of the candidates jumps out and claims victory 2 hours from now? You know, carries a couple states, gets a a lead in what would be the magical 270 electoral necessary to win the presidency, and says, it's midnight. The pumpkin turns, and now I declare myself the winner. Victory.
Right.
What happens then?
And the answer is a clear academic one. Again, in 2020 and in years before, we've often said what the law says and what the rules say aren't necessarily what happens in America. But it's very clear that the president of the United States of America does not have the capacity legally, politically, to announce his or perhaps one day her success in an electoral situation. That is done by secretaries of state, if you will, who are doing the counting, who make those kinds of judgment calls. Plainly, the better answer to that is that based upon the popular vote, as you indicated already, under the Constitution of the United States of America, the 12th Amendment in particular, you have to get to 270 electoral votes. And those electors then meet in December. They cast those votes. Those votes are opened in the Congress in January. That's how the process is done. No candidate, Joe Biden can't do it. Donald Trump can't do it. Nobody simply declares victory. That's not to stop them, of course, from being on the media and doing that sort of thing. But I think most civil servants, even politically elected civil servants, would look at that on both sides of the party and say, very nice, Mr. President, no can do. That's not the way this works.
Jim, currently in the state of North Carolina, statewide, the margin, Biden holds a lead of like approximately 1,000 votes. And if that were to be the end of the night tally or the official tally, you would have to expect a recount in a circumstance like that. We went through a recount in the state of Wisconsin at the request of the Green Party candidate, Jill Stein. She only had 34,000 votes. Hillary lost the state of Wisconsin by about 23,000 votes. But when you're talking about 1,000 votes, plausibly, Jim, they could find 1,000 votes here or there or somewhere, or some incorrect tabulations, etc. How long could a recount hold up the final tabulation of a state's ballots?
Well, a great question once again. And going back to your very first issue about litigation, we hope it doesn't go to that, but we anticipate, we expect that the local elections officials will be exercising due diligence, staying up as long as we possibly can tonight to get those accurate votes. Your question goes to a very close election and the possibility of a recount. Every state, of course, has its own rules and regulations and protocols and those kinds of things. I say the obvious. The closer those numbers are, the more likely it is that one side or the other will ask for the recount. That's when the timing issue becomes more important. That's when, again, the lawyers run into court and either petition for or seek to stop recounts like that based upon the percentages and the specific rules in those states. If that, in fact, happens in more than a handful of states, then we're going to be talking about us, the three or four of us, for a number of days, if not weeks, as we identify all these different places. And again, it goes to the larger issue, too. If there is a clear electoral victory on one side or another, even those that there may be a closer margin, those may become less relevant. And the enthusiasm level, if you will, even among lawyers to go in and fight a battle that could be won, but would not succeed in winning the war, if you will, that becomes less likely.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. James Santel, former U.S. attorney and friend of the Devil's Advocates, joins us via the Zoom. Jim, I want to read a couple paragraphs here quickly from the Washington Post. It references a judge we talk about often. The U.S. Postal Service turned down a federal judge's order late Tuesday afternoon to sweep mail processing facilities serving 15 states, saying instead it would stick to its own inspection schedule. The court order came after the agency disclosed that more than 300,000 ballots nationwide could not be traced. The judge, Emmett Sullivan, had given the mail agency until 3:30 to conduct an all-clear check to ensure that any found ballots could be delivered before the polls closed. His order affected 12 postal districts spanning 15 states. But the Justice Department said, no, we're going to do it over our own time to better accommodate the inspector schedules. And of course, the problem being, if they find these ballots and they don't get them back in time, well, polls close, right? So aside from the voting issue, what should happen or what would happen? What do you think should happen? Knowing that the Postal Service has essentially ignored Judge Sullivan's order.
And again, just by way of background, all of us we know Emmett Sullivan well. He was the one who's presiding over the Michael Flynn case. He has been a very strong advocate for judicial decision making, and this is one of those. He issues this broad, very sweeping opinion that says, listen, United States Postal Service, get your act together, remedy these problems that happened over the summertime. Return to me with an accounting, ensure that all of your employees know how this is to be done. And here's the narrow answer, which doesn't provide complete solace tonight at 9:15 at night. But the answer is, if you fail to do what a federal judge is commanding you to do, and no appeals court has directed otherwise, you are in contempt of that court. And that's no small thing. It doesn't get down to your principal issue, which is, well, that's very nice. That's a lawyerly thing to say, gosh, the Department of Justice, the Attorney General, the Postmaster General might be in contempt. What does that do tonight in terms of those votes and those ballots? This is the kind of thing then that, getting back once again to our very first issue, if you are in contempt of a judge's order and you're simply saying, no, we're not doing that, then you've got to have lawyers running into court in front of Judge Sullivan tomorrow morning, Thursday morning, Friday morning, when the problems of this begin to accelerate, and saying, Judge, not only is the United States Postal Service in violation of your order, your directive clearly, but they're in purposeful, intentional violation. Find them in contempt. And again, you can do things to remedy that problem. Judge Sullivan, appeals courts, frankly, the United States Supreme Court, as we've learned, can do things like saying, well, under these circumstances, voting time, counting times can be extended. Other accommodations can be made judicially to ensure that votes are counted. And as we've talked before, that's the real key to all of this. That's why it's not without teeth. But again, timing is everything.
Let's talk about the U.S. Senate for just a minute. Former U.S. Attorney James Santel, our good friend. Thank you to our fine sponsors this evening, Teamsters, Local 200, and the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. We welcome our friends from AM 950, KTNF, and of course, Devil Radio 92.7 here in Madison. But Jim, the U.S. Senate, Doug Jones has lost his bid in Alabama to Tommy Tupperville, football coach. So the Democrats lost one. John Hickenlooper has picked up one in Colorado. Unfortunately, Lindsey Graham has been reelected in the state of South Carolina. Mitch McConnell held serve against Amy McGrath in Kentucky. So still a chance for the Democrats to win back the Senate. But so many of the malfeasant behaviors, be it the acquittal of Donald Trump in his impeachment or the ramming of Amy Coney Barrett on the courts. Jim, what say you about the Senate? I can give you about a minute for now, and then we'll bring it back after the break.
Absolutely. Huge issue, regardless of who is elected president and whether it's, again, Donald Trump or Joe Biden tonight. It is Senate, right? Because not only are we going to certainly be confirming more federal judges, but all these kinds of things we've talked about for years, including, for example, remedying Citizens United, remedying Shelby County versus Holder. All those kinds of things have to be accomplished through joint houses of Congress making those decisions. If the Senate remains in Republican hands, President Biden's administration is stymied in many of its policy initiatives and these important legal issues as well.
Former U.S. Attorney Jim Santel, hold that thought. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates special election night coverage here to the witching hour.
Stream the Devils and Progressive News and Talk 24/7 at the Devil's Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. That's DARNWI.com. That's DARNWI.com.
Hi, this is Dom from the Devil's Advocates inviting you to join us on Patreon.com. Patreon allows for our audience to access exclusive programming not available anywhere else and gives you the ability to directly support the greatest radio show ever. History's patrons have supported the works of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Monet, and now with your support, the Devil's Advocates. So please go to Patreon.com and search the Devil's Advocates to pick your subscription. That's Patreon.com and the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever.
Max Inc. Radio, this is Rokker. Hey, Jimmy, I've been invited to the White House, and he wants me to bring some of that guacamole. What if he double dips, Jimmy?
Double Dip with Mag Zink on Devil Radio 92.7 FM. In-depth interviews, new music, and plenty of throwbacks. Saturday, 6 p.m.
Right back to the beginning, Rocker.
Whiz Cannabis Radio is brought to you by Herbal Aspect, Madison's #1 CBD brand. You can catch the show live on our social channels. Just search for Whiz Cannabis Radio. Herbal Aspect is a local, black-owned small business. For more information, go to herbalaspect.com.
The Devil's Advocates.
There are lots of people that haven't made up their mind on this race, and you think, how could that be? No, there are. There are a lot of people that could still make a decision all the way on election day down.
Undecided voters are the biggest idiots on the planet. Try giving short, simple answers.
Like you'll go person, woman, man, camera, TV. Yosemites.
Because freedom.
Devil Radio, your fix for progressive talk from Middleton to Monona, always streaming at DARNWI.com.
The Devil's Advocates. Never personal, only politics.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines are open this evening. Election night, 844-967-2789.
Dominic, we welcome our friends from Minneapolis, St. Paul, AM 950, KTNF, Minnesota's progressive voice. And of course, our local listeners, Devil Radio 92.7, streaming worldwide at DARNWI.com. We've got our fine guest. He's generously stuck around. He is former U.S. Attorney James Santel, friend of ours. Jim, the Mark Kelly race in Arizona. And this is a fill a seat. Luke was quick to point that out during the commercial break. Credit to Luke Mathers. But if Mark Kelly wins this seat, he is impaneled at the U.S. Senate nearly immediately. Why is that an important thing, Jim?
Sure, that's very important. Again, because there will be a so-called lame duck session of Congress in December. Many things can happen. We know that we're no longer going to be fighting over the next Associate Justice of the Supreme Court. That is done. Amy Coney Barrett took her seat last week. But there are many other things that can happen in this coming month. We could spend hours talking about what the Constitution contemplates, even with respect to if, in fact, neither of the presidential candidates tonight achieves 270 votes. 12th Amendment sends the decision into the House of Representatives as to the presidency, sends it into the Senate as to the vice presidency. Many issues there probably won't happen. But a lame duck Congress in this kind of climate could not only be significant in this electoral process, but again, the other piece of this is just the political one and the social one and the general of the nation. We still do not have a second or maybe even a third bill with respect to coronavirus relief out there. And one would like to think that even in this lame duck period, that the Congress would come back and attend to that. Many other issues there. Of course, the big issue then is, will this Congress, the lame duck Congress, be substantially different than the one that does take the oath of office on January 2nd, about a couple of weeks or so before the president takes an oath of office. And again, time periods there, fascinating numbers of parlor games could be entertained there, depending upon what happens tonight and the days ahead. So no small thing that we've got a Congress coming back in session. I will bemoan also, to going back to your last question, Doug Jones, former U.S. Attorney under Bill Clinton, a friend, a colleague, a loss to the United States Senate, I would offer to your listeners tonight. And obviously we'll watch the Senate, again, to your earlier point, hugely important out there tonight.
Well, quick announcement here in Wisconsin politics. Our good friend Gwen Moore easily captures a ninth term in the Milwaukee Beast in the House of Representatives. Gwen Moore has cruised to re-election.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. James Santel, our guest. You got an update for us, Luke?
Yeah, AP right now is also reporting that Scott Fitzgerald will be going to Congress next year.
So that begs a quick question, and I don't mean to interrupt my pal Dominic. A special election in the Wisconsin Senate 13th. When would you expect that to happen? Scott Fitzgerald is the Senate Majority Leader. He's the current leader in the Senate. And he, of course, effectively apparently has won election to the Congress in a heavily gerrymandered Republican-leaning district here in Wisconsin, the 5th CD. So what happens next with the open 13th, the lucky 13, Jim?
Sure. So again, assuming that we're going to be calling him Congressman Fitzgerald fairly soon, again, he would take the oath of office in early January, again, before the president does, and therefore would retain his seat until that time. He could certainly choose to resign if he wants to before that. But again, my understanding is that given the fact that he is vacating right now, the governor has some responsibility here to announce and to set an election. And leave that to him and his good counsel to make decisions about that. But obviously, all of these things trip other issues, both locally and nationally. In the month of December into January can be and will be a very fascinating time, both in Wisconsin and around the country.
Well, Jim, some encouraging news for our fair listeners. MSNBC NBC News projecting, the Democrats have retained the House of Representatives. They have already held or carried about 237 seats.
So, Jim, the state of Wisconsin, obviously here locally, COVID being a real issue, the Republican legislature have gone to great lengths to stymie the powers of the Democratic governor without offering any other specific plan to do anything else. If there were to be some sea change here in the state of Wisconsin, do you see that perhaps a Democratic legislature would work with the governor, and what kind of lawsuits could be overturned perhaps if we dream big here in the state of Wisconsin, given Robin Vos getting kicked out of the assembly?
Sure. So again, I think you hit on all the important points there. It begins legislatively, right? When you have both the legislative branch and the gubernatorial, the executive branch of the same party, presumably cooperating on legislation, as we see in the Congress these days, you can pass bills that change the nature of laws, the ways we do things, what the law is, not only with respect to things like the budget and public safety, but also COVID. And that's the kind of very important thing that could happen here. Legislatures plainly, as I mentioned before, in connection with things like Shelby and County and Citizens United, legislatures can also do what are called fixes to cases that are decided by appellate courts and do things legislatively to correct whatever the courts have found is inadequate. Again, great authority there as well to make remedial changes in the way that the world works and the way that we look at public policy. So again, if you've got, as we talked about nationally, if you've got the United States Senate and the House, of course, and the executive branch, you can do all kinds of things. And the same is true in Madison. You can do healthcare, transportation, infrastructure. Remember, we used to talk about that early on. You can do all kinds of things. Maybe immigration and probably foreign policy are the two that are outside the ambit there. But many, many other options there that a legislature has. And including with respect to the Attorney General, not quite the problems with in connection with some of those lame duck laws that the state legislature passed right in the waning days of the Rokker administration.
Former U.S. Attorney, friend of ours, James Santel, thank you so much. Come back with us. Special live coverage, election night style, Devil's Advocates with our pal, Vegas Joseph Heckey. More election night coverage when we return.
Thank you, Jim.
Good night. Take care.
Cut through the bullshit. Get the information the deep state doesn't want you to know. Only on Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Do you know the Devil's Advocate started as a podcast, just two buddies talking into an iPad because we thought we had something to say. Do you have something to say? Let Devil Radio guide you. Launch your own broadcast quality podcast. Utilize our studios and staff, our hosting platform, and we will even promote your podcast on Devil Radio. Monthly packages start at just $295. Devil Radio's podcast platform to launch immediately after the election. Call today to learn more. 608-819-TALK.
Stream the Devils and progressive news and talk 24/7 at the Devil's Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. That's DARNWI.com. That's DARNWI.com.
Whiz Cannabis Radio is brought to you by Herbal Aspect, Madison's #1 CBD brand. You can catch the show live on our social channels. Just search for Whiz Cannabis Radio. Herbal Aspect is a local, Black-owned small business. For more information, go to Herbal Aspect.
Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Are you a small business owner or professional that would like to be featured in your own weekly Ask the Expert radio segment or show on Devil Radio? Let us help you in your business team with our broadcast professionals to create the right show or segment, setting you apart as the go-to professional and as an expert in your field. All shows and sponsored segments are podcasted. It will be professional broadcast quality. Packages from $395. Call Devil Radio today at 608-819-TALK.
Stream the Devils and Progressive News and Talk 24/7 at the Devil's Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. That's DARNWI.com. That's DARNWI.com.
Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. I'm Luke Mathers with your Election Day headlines for Tuesday, November 3rd. New COVID-19 cases in Wisconsin have increased 542% over the past 2 months. The Wisconsin Department of Health Services is reporting there are 48,366 active cases of COVID-19 in Wisconsin, which DHS noted is enough to fill Miller Park in Milwaukee and leave over 6,400 people in the parking lot. Rittenhouse bond set at $2 million. Rittenhouse was extradited from Illinois to Wisconsin to face numerous charges, including first-degree reckless homicide. During his hearing, a judge found Rittenhouse to be a flight risk and imposed a $2 million bond. Tune in to Devil Radio tonight for special election night coverage with the Devil's Advocates from 8 p.m. until midnight. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
When they go low, we get high. Tom and Kreutz are the Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back. Devil's Advocates Election Night Special. And it's only getting better and better. Currently, state of Wisconsin, Donald Trump leading by like 22,000 votes. WTF, Wisconsin. But of course, a lot of votes still to count. We got a fine guest joining us right now live via Zoom. He is Vegas Joe Sapecki, a fine pundit from the great state of Wisconsin, does some dim communications, runs some campaigns, and perhaps read some tea leaves. Joe, it's still relatively early in the night, but what can you tell us so far?
Well, let me start with Sweet Home Arizona. Right? Nationally, what we were looking for was an early indication of the way that tonight would go. Florida, not looking great for Biden. Texas, North Carolina, still an outside shot. Ohio, looking very good for Biden, but Arizona, really, really good. So that's the first flip of the night. So now we got to figure out how to flip Wisconsin. What I'm seeing and what's being reported is Trump's doing pretty well in the early returns. Those are most likely to be the votes cast today, and he is not hitting the 60% plus of election day voting that the data nerds far smarter than me were saying that he was going to need, right? So the other pieces of information coming, it does look like in suburbs, Trump is running 4 to 6 points behind his 2016 numbers. There's some counties where he's going to do a little bit better, but there's more places where he's going to do worse. And the numbers out of Dane County do look really, really good. It looks like Joe Biden will net more votes out of Dane County, the big blue machine, than either Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton did.
Wow.
That's a good if you're Joe Biden.
You're welcome, Joe Biden. A couple of quick thoughts. Congressional races. Gwen Moore cruised to re-election. No shocker. And our pal Tom Palzowitz didn't have enough to overcome Scotty Fitzgerald. So Fitzgerald's taking the former Sensenbrenner job for a lifetime in the U.S. Congress. And my question, Joe, what happens in the lucky 13th Senate district? Because suddenly we're going to have a special election, and that'll be the next one on the calendar.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's a tough part of the state. We are watching a lot more competitive legislative contests for Democrats than we thought 6 months ago, heck, even 6 weeks ago, right? I mean, not that long ago, Scott Fitzgerald and Robin Vos were talking about veto-proof supermajorities in both houses of the legislature. That is completely off the table.
Out of Milwaukee County, Joe Biden at 59.9%. He is up on Donald Trump by about 35,000 votes out of Milwaukee currently. 59.9% though.
That's great. That's a good start. But to the legislative piece, the legislature is not going to do what Republicans wanted it to do when this elective cycle began. That's a good sign for Dems. We should run everywhere, no matter how hard we think the district is. And particularly, when we look at some of the folks who might run to replace Fitzgerald on the Republican side, it's worth us, recruiting, training, and resourcing a fight there. We've got to fight everywhere if we want to make this state, one where we can control both houses of the legislature again, which we did not that long ago.
Joe, until very recently, obviously, Robin finding a pickup in the suburban Milwaukee district that she currently serves in, but she is the only Dem pickup in the assembly, I believe, since Robin Vos was anointed the speaker. Which ones are you watching tonight? My understanding, Jim Ott not doing so well over there. Any other races that you've got your eye on, Joe Sapecki?
Well, it looks like Deb Andraka has already basically put the 23rd away. I'm looking at the other Milwaukee County districts, all of them. 13, 15, 21, 82. Those are great candidates like Eric Brooks and Sarah Rodriguez, Jacob Malinowski, Jessica Katzenmeyer. I mean, we ran real races and went on the offense. And I think, we're going to pick a few of those up. Chris Marion out in the western part of the state, great candidate who ran for the state Senate last time in a race that a couple of years ago, Democrats almost flipped. There are opportunities out there. Otherwise, you wouldn't see so many Democrat candidates for the legislature on TV in the closing days, which if you turned on the TV recently in my part of the state over here in Milwaukee, you couldn't get away from them.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Joe Zapecki. Zapecki Communications joins us via the Zoom. Joe, happy election night, my friend. Okay, so Arizona, getting back to the national picture, Arizona's a good one. We'll take it. But, Florida, North Carolina, Texas, not going our way. Is this going to really come down to what everyone talked about after last year, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin?
Well, credit to the Biden campaign, who always focused first and foremost on rebuilding the blue wall. That was always the shortest path to 270 for Joe Biden. They've resourced it. They've put in the time and energy and resources. And I think everybody feels really good about those three states at this hour, in part because of what we're seeing in upper Midwestern suburbs that are going to tell us a heck of a lot more about Wisconsin than Florida or Arizona or North Carolina. There are regional differences that shouldn't be overlooked. You've got Biden running really strong in Ohio suburbs. You've even got him running really strong in Kansas suburbs. I think that's going to bear out and be part of the calculation that leads to Biden taking back Wisconsin, Biden taking back Michigan and Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, we're going to have to wait a while. Heck, Wisconsin, we're going to have to wait a while.
Between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m., Joe, the governor is saying.
No sleep till Brooklyn, baby. We're up all night.
So to summarize then, Joe, in some of these other places where Joe may not win, but if he overperforms based on last year's numbers, that could bode well for his performance in the blue wall states.
Absolutely. Think about it. Trump won Ohio by 8 points 4 years ago. It's now looking like Ohio is a jump ball. Joe Biden doesn't need to run 8 points better than Hillary Clinton did in Wisconsin. He can run a point better. and win it, right? And that would qualify as a landslide. I think it's going to be a little bit more than that, but there are good signs out there. And although we didn't get the early sort of first round TKO, the problem for Trump is he has a lot more pratfalls everywhere he turns on the electoral college map. Biden is still playing offense and playing in Trump territory because he's in the ball game in North Carolina. He's in the ball game in Ohio. He's already flipped Arizona. All of that bodes very well for the likelihood of Joe Biden being the next president.
Joe Zepecki, there's only one portion of the state of Wisconsin that ever seems to quote unquote flip, and that's the river region down the Mississippi River. Do you look at the Ron Kind race, and my understanding, Ron Kind leading narrowly currently in his effort to hold his congressional seat, but is he the bellwether over there on the river of what is to come and whether or not those counties up and down the river will turn blue once again, the same counties that voted for Obama and then turned and voted for Donald Trump?
It could be. The other place to look is SD 32, right? That's the Brad Paff versus Dan Kapanke. That was a Senate race that went to a recount 4 years ago. Brad Paff running really strong there. In the 3rd congressional district, the numbers I'm seeing with 70,000 votes in have basically a tie. They're both candidates are at 35,000 votes apiece. Here's why that's encouraging. We know from all of the research that Democrats were more likely to vote absentee by mail or early in person. And so, all of these Republican candidates had to count on really, really big margins in the votes cast today, which are most likely to be the votes that have already been reported. Across the state, it's going to take a little bit longer to get all of these absentee ballots processed. So any Democrat who is, sort of a little bit behind or neck and neck or ahead, they're going to get a boost once those absentee ballots, which includes the early in person, come through and are reported.
Joe Zepecki, Dane County, Madison, my hometown, could put up record turnout numbers. My understanding, they've already put up record turnout numbers. How important could the overperformance of Madison, Wisconsin, turn out to be for Joe Biden statewide?
Massive. So 4 years ago, Hillary Clinton won Dane County by about 135,000 votes. Right now, with only about 2/3 in, Joe Biden is already ahead in Dane County by 131,000 votes. There's a lot more to come there. And what we're seeing in the percentage breakdowns is that Biden is overperforming both the Clinton number from 16 and the Obama numbers. So in terms of a percentage, Biden's doing even better. He's going to net even more votes out of there. That's another good sign for him in terms of the statewide map.
Now, Joe, likewise, in Milwaukee County, lower turnout last time. What are you seeing this time? Apparently about 27% of the votes in Milwaukee County have been cast, with Biden leading by about 33,000 votes.
Yeah, I can't work fast enough tonight. I've got too many tabs open here. Listen,
put down your beer, Joe.
4 years ago, Hillary Clinton won the county of Milwaukee by 160,000 votes. I haven't seen anything to indicate that Biden isn't going to win it by more than that. And so it's the same sort of principle as Dane County. In these large population centers, increasing the number of votes you net out of them means that Donald Trump has to overperform in lots and lots of less dense, smaller counties. You take a Polk County, he can run at 125% performance compared to 4 years ago and only walk out with like another 1,500 or 2,000 votes maximum. That's, you got to do that in a lot of places to start equaling what Biden should be getting out of just Dane and Milwaukee. So it makes his map very hard, especially when where we started, the WOW counties outside of Milwaukee look like they're underperforming for him a bit. 4 to 6% doesn't seem like much, but those are the largest parts of the state that tend to go Republican. He couldn't afford to fall short there. He kind of had to punch above his weight, and it doesn't appear that he's done that.
Joe Zepecki, my understanding, there were some surveys, it seemed like exit surveys done by the Journal Sentinel. And some of that was broke down by ethnicity. And we know famously Hillary Clinton didn't turn out the same number of African Americans in Wisconsin as Obama did in 2008, and certainly not as many as he did in 2012. And her percentage had fallen under 50% of African Americans in the state of Wisconsin pulling the lever for Hillary Clinton. Joe, any insights where we stand currently, Black voters in Wisconsin? About 2 minutes left.
Yep. I have always thought that was way too oversimplifying the matter and way too unfair to Black folks in Milwaukee. If you look at all of the Dem, communities around the state, the turnout just wasn't there for Hillary Clinton, right? Tammy Baldwin netted more votes out of Dane County than Hillary Clinton did 2 years before in a presidential election. So let's stop putting this on Black voters in Milwaukee first and foremost. Now, in terms of this year, I do think the same day vote within the north side of Milwaukee, which is the most heavily African American part of the state, is going to be there. I think they're going to match or exceed 2016. And given all of the other pieces of data that we're talking about, that's going to be enough.
Joe Zepecki, our good friend, Vegas Joe. Are you going to stick around, Joe? We've got some callers stacking up. They'd love to talk to you, fella.
I've got to be on a different hit in 8 minutes, but I could maybe take one caller after the break.
Well, never mind. You got more important work to do. Joe Zepecki, we appreciate you doing double duty for tonight, buddy.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
If you got other hits, man, we understand. More important friends than the Devil's Advocates.
I'm up all night. Me if you need me back. Love you, boys.
We'll check in about midnight, Joe. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. Your phone calls welcome here. 844-967-2789. We'll talk about Wisconsin. We'll talk about the national races, the Senate, and of course the presidency. God willing, Joe Biden will be your next president, but still a lot of votes to count between here and there. Dial us up. We'll keep you entertained. Once again, 844-96-PARTY.
Stream the Devils and Progressive News and Talk 24/7 at the Devil's Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. That's DARNWI.com. That's DARNWI.com.
Hi, this is Dom from the Devil's Advocates inviting you to join us on Patreon.com. Patreon allows for our audience to access exclusive programming not available anywhere else and gives you the ability to directly support the greatest radio show ever. History's patrons have supported the works of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Monet, and now with your support, the Devil's Advocates. So please go to Patreon.com and search the Devil's Advocates to pick your subscription. That's Patreon.com and the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever.
Dave, I heard you had a solution to Russia meddling in our elections.
Oh, yeah, Crudy. Community PC is Putin's worst nightmare. Voting machines are just computers, and Community PC's Tech Protect plan keeps computers safe and secure.
How can I learn more and protect my computer?
Well, to keep your computer up to date and secure, go to COMMPC.com to learn more and sign up for Tech Protect today. That's COMMPC.com. Community PC. We know what makes computers happy.
Whiz Cannabis Radio is brought to you by Herbal Aspect, Madison's #1 CBD brand. You can catch the show live on our social channels. Just search for Whiz Cannabis Radio. Herbal Aspect is a local Black-owned small business. For more information, go to herbalaspect.com.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 2 to 5 p.m.
You guys are getting it done.
You boys are the light of my day, and I've been listening to you for many years.
I love you guys. You're the greatest thing that has happened to Wisconsin radio.
If it wasn't for your radio program and getting out the vote, who knows?
I got to give you guys so many props.
I'm pretty sure your guys' radio station had a direct impact on that.
You're welcome, everybody, and thank you. Devil Radio, your fix for progressive talk radio from Fitchburg to DeForest, always streaming at DARNWI.com.
Well, I can't stand to look at you now.
The Devil's Advocates, making radio great again.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Phone lines are open. How you feeling, Wisconsin? How you feeling, America? 844-967-2789.
I'm feeling like Joe Biden's got 118 electoral college votes and Donald Trump 102. And the Nebraska, the divided congressional district, that whole you can win a single electoral vote out of Nebraska.
Omaha.
Currently, that race separated by 661 votes. Don't tell me your vote doesn't matter, America. Want to welcome our friends at AM 950 KTNF. Want to thank our fine broadcast sponsors, Teamsters Local 200 and the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign, and want to encourage you to be a part of this fine broadcast. Want to hear from you. How you feeling? 844-967-2789. Going to the phones. Jake, help me out, brother. Jake from Milwaukee. Jake, welcome. What do you got for us?
Hey, Jake.
Hey, Dom, you get to keep your hair, by the way.
What was the bet again?
And that Cootie bet you if Robin Voss would win, okay, I'm making this up,
right,
that you would cut your hair and give it to him.
Oh, that's right.
So
that was someone else's bet, but I
win-
would be the proud recipient of those locks.
And has Robin Voss, Assembly Speaker out of the state of Wisconsin, has he retained his seat, Jake?
I believe he's going to. I mean, it was a long shot anyways, but hey, at least he had to pretend that he was actually working for his constituents. But what you win, Dom, is you win to keep your hair. So, you know.
I like to think
Come on, man,
everybody wins, Jake.
I don't think you can call that race yet. Just because Fitzy won doesn't mean that Voss is going to win. They're completely different races in different districts. And Voss a lot closer to the failure of FoxCONn in his district. I know it's been bothering a lot of the locals.
Yeah, no, I think Voss won't change after this, but that'll seal his fate even more. So this is what I'm seeing tonight as far as all the voting and everything. I'm seeing premature votulation, which I mean, although, I mean, it's coming out to play. Like, you know, it's not like Trump and the Republicans have expanded their party. They have their strongholds, and, you know, to have a win there, you know, that would be really cool, but, you know, that's not going to happen. But they're all mostly voting today, right? I mean, there was probably did some early voting, but not as much as Democrats and everyone else. So I have a feeling the bigger urban areas that have, like, you know, volumes upon to vote rather than, like, you know, 3,000 people a county, you know, stuff like that. I think later in the evening, it's just going to explode as far as the number of votes for Biden.
Yeah, then Trump's going to have to beat him off all across the map.
Yeah, and then then after that, it's going to be oh my gosh, I missed it. But then comes in the the lawyers. So that's going to be the second round of this election. So even if Biden like squeaks a win or does an okay win, you know, it's going to last longer in certain areas because they're going to pinpoint certain areas to try to like get their Republican cronies and then move it up to the state courts that are cool with it, like Wisconsin, to get it up to the Supreme Court so they can have Barrett and them say, oh, okay, you have to throw it out because we're just autocratic, horrible human beings.
Come on, Jake, you got to go check the tinfoil in your hat, man. You are way too early in the night for this sort of doomsaying.
Premature tabulation? I think he's got something going on there.
Your wife tells me you're a notorious early voter. Jake, I'm not saying it couldn't devolve into that, but it's still early in the evening, man. I'm still quite hopeful that Joe Biden is going to win the 3 battleground states, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, going to put a fork in it, and Arizona would appear like it's going Joe Biden's way. Mark Kelly also winning over Martha McSally by about 11%, difference of about 244,000 votes. Trump currently winning Ohio, North Carolina, and Texas, and Wisconsin, technically. But I have faith More faith than Dominic will ever demonstrate. Biden currently winning Arizona by about 208,000 votes with less than 1 million votes to count. I mean, the margins, you're really going to have to rack them up. And Maricopa County ain't what it used to be.
844-967-2789. Betsy, you are next. Happy election night. Betsy, welcome. What do you got for us?
Betsy, you staying calm, sister?
Hey, there you are. Hey, Betsy.
I'm not trying to be calm. I'm getting nervous.
Me too, sister.
Oh, my goodness. Listen. But, oh my
Betsy, you sound sad. What are you sad about?
Because he's not going to leave.
You're talking about Trump.
He's not going to go. No.
Well, first we got to beat him, and then we could be sad if he tried not to leave. But I don't think he can stay if he loses. Betsy, the important thing is tabulating the votes. And once we add up all the votes tonight, I tell you, sister, Joe Biden is going to be your next president. Have faith. And keep the faith.
And Betsy, I get it. I'm with you. I'm a little concerned as well, but we also have to remember, what were the chances of Texas going to Joe Biden? What are the chances of Florida? And it looks like they're not going to go that way. But the fact is, the line has been shorter. The spread is down. So presumably that will translate into other areas as well, as our last guest, Joe Zepecki, pointed out. And if we can grab some of those important states, as Kerry mentioned, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, it's all over.
Well, for one thing, I believe in you guys. And I thank you for all you do for Wisconsinites around the world. I mean, honestly, you guys are amazing men. You're my hero.
Oh, thank you, Betsy.
No, you don't even know.
Well, don't go all full Betsy on us. Betsy, keep the faith. Stay up late before this night is over. We're going to declare Joe Biden the next president of the United States. In Arizona, a very important state, currently Biden up by 200,000 votes. Don't worry about states that Donald Trump once before. And now the Democrats aspire to, make them competitive. Georgia, Florida, those are red states. Don't get sad about the red states. Let's talk about rebuilding the blue wall in the upper Midwest. Our friends in Minnesota, they're bringing it home. AM 950 KTNF listing. Minnesota currently in Joe Biden's column. And before this night's over, we're going to put Wisconsin firmly back in the blue column. Come back with us. Want to hear from you. 844-967-2789, an election night political party right here on Double Radio. And Earl Ingram joining us soon.
Have to beat that off. I had to beat off all this.
Do you know the Devil's Advocate started as a podcast, just two buddies talking into an iPad because we thought we had something to say. Do you have something to say? Let Devil Radio guide you. Launch your own broadcast quality podcast. Utilize our studios and staff, our hosting platform, and we will even promote your podcast on Devil Radio. Monthly packages start at just $295. Devil Radio's podcast platform to launch immediately after the election. Call today to learn more. 608-819-TALK.
Stream the Devils and progressive news and talk 24/7 at the Devil's Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. That's DARNWI.com. That's DARNWI.com.
Hi, everybody. This is Santita Jackson of The Santita Jackson Show. Every Friday morning at 7 o'clock, let's fix our society by fixing ourselves with the Love Doc, Dr. Brenda Wade on The Santita Jackson Show on 92.7 FM.
You are listening to WTTN 1580 AM Columbus and W224 EG 92.7 FM Madison. Always streaming at Talk 92.7 FM.
AP News, I'm Tim McGuire. Election results show a close race so far between President Trump and Joe Biden. Biden leading in the Electoral College tally, 131 to 108, with Trump adding 10 more votes with his win in Missouri. It takes 270 votes to win the presidency. Trump holds a slight edge in the popular vote. Several key states remain undecided, including Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Texas, North Carolina, and Florida. AP Sagar Magani reports on the top issues for the voters.
AP VoteCast, a national survey of the electorate, found the pandemic was the top concern, and it's why Mariah Foster voted for Joe Biden in Wisconsin.
Our president isn't doing much about it when it comes to COVID.
But in Tennessee, Trump backer Olivia Tomlin says the virus wasn't the president's fault.
He was treated unfairly over the pandemic, the coronavirus.
And this election was largely about the president. 2/3 in the survey said their vote was either for or against him, not Biden. For Mary Dufresne in Nashville.
I honestly feel that Trump has done a terrible job while he's been in.
In Iowa, Dale Poole says he likes the president.
I think he's well worth another 4 years.
Sagar Magani, Washington.
North Carolina Democrat Roy Cooper wins re-election for governor. There have been 2 Senate seat flips. Former Colorado Governor, Democrat John Hickenlooper, beating incumbent Republican Cory Gardner. In Alabama, incumbent Democrat Doug Jones loses to former Auburn football coach and political newcomer, Republican Tommy Tuberville. A Republican congressional candidate who expressed racist views and support for QAnon conspiracy theories wins a seat to represent Northwest Georgia. Marjorie Taylor Greene's candidacy was bolstered by President Trump, who called her a future Republican star. Greene was heavily favored in that conservative district even before Democratic challenger Kevin Van Osdell suddenly dropped out in September. This is AP News.
How can we help each other and the planet during these historic, uncertain times? Did you know that there are millions of farmers in developing nations using harmful practices that not only make it hard for them to make ends meet, but also hurt the environment? The good news is there's a solution. For more than 30 years, nonprofit Trees for the Future has planted over 180 million trees and helped tens of thousands of farmers achieve independence and stability so that they're able to weather any storm. Trees for the Future trains farmers to rethink farming and use trees to flatten the curve on environmental harm while improving their nutrition and income. Let's come together to build a better future for communities in need and the planet. Learn more at trees.org/radio. That's TREES.org/radio. This message is sponsored by Trees for the Future.
Wash your hands, avoid sick people, and touching your face. There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. Brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Stream the Devils and progressive news and talk 24/7 at the Devil's Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. That's DARNWI.com. That's DARNWI.com.
Hi, this is Dom from the Devil's Advocates inviting you to join us on Patreon.com. Patreon allows for our audience to access exclusive programming not available anywhere else and gives you the ability to directly support the greatest radio show ever. History's patrons have supported the works of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Monet, and now with your support, the Devil's Advocates. So please go to Patreon.com and search the Devil's Advocates to pick your subscription. That's Patreon.com and the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever.
Max Inc. Radio, this is Rokker. Hey, Jimmy, I've been invited to the White House, and he wants me to bring some of that guacamole. What if he double dips, Jimmy?
Double Dip with Max Inc. on Devil Radio 92.7 FM. In-depth interviews, new music, and plenty of throwbacks. Saturday, 6 p.m.
Right back to the beginning, Rokker.
Senator Ron Johnson talking about staying out of bars. How does that pair with your thought that schools should reopen in the fall? You got a room full of school students or a room full of bar patrons. What's the difference?
Because schools, students, it's rare, very rare to have them have a very serious medical effect from COVID.
Listen to Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 2 to 5 p.m.
You shouldn't have older school teachers or school teachers with some of the comorbidities.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your Election Day headlines for Tuesday, November 3rd. Wisconsin's polls opened at 7 a.m. and will close at 8 p.m. If you are in line to vote by 8 p.m., they have to let you vote. What to expect on Election Day? Long lines due to social distancing and a long wait for results. Counting ballots is expected to take significantly longer than usual this election because of the unprecedented high volume of absentee ballots. More than 1.7 million absentee ballots have already been returned as of October 30th, twice as many as the total cast in the 2016. Those ballots could not be counted until today, Election Day, regardless of when they were sent in. A seasonably warm day today, forecast high of 66 degrees, low of 46 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back. Special election night coverage, Devil's Advocates radio show. That's Dominic. I'm Crudy. Luke helping us tonight. Luke Mathers, our fine producer. He's going to watch the Wisconsin races. And we welcome our friends from AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota. And, of course, our friends at Devil Radio 92.7. And we're streaming worldwide at DARNWI.com. Want to thank our local sponsors, Teamsters, Local 200, and the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign, Batman, and all the fine people over there.
Yeah.
And we welcome a fine guest. Our friend Earl Ingram joins us once again. After doing a long shift on the air today, Earl joins us. Earl, welcome back to the Devil's Advocates. You look beat down, Earl.
How you feeling, Earl?
I was feeling pretty good up until they just awarded Florida.
Oh, Florida has gone in Trump's column. Well,
yes.
He suspected as much. That was a state that Trump won prior in 2016. And it would have been nice. Joe Biden obviously put some resources into Florida, but we didn't expect Florida.
Okay.
And Georgia was an aspirational state for Joe Biden as well. But North Carolina, very, very close. And the three states that matter, and right now they're being framed up by NBC News. Pennsylvania, Trump leading by about 428,000 votes. Michigan, Trump leading by 254,000 votes. And Wisconsin, Trump leading by just under 39,000 votes. Earl, do you want to be the first one to declare that Donald Trump will retain the presidency of the United States?
Come on, man.
I'm like, first, man. You could be an innovator on this.
Look, man. It is so disheartening. But, you know, there's still a lot of mail-in ballots that have not been counted in those major states that you're talking about.
Now, were you hanging out at the Trump rallies all weekend long? Sounded a little hoarse, Earl.
Well, I don't know. I spent a lot of time outside working on the yard, so I don't know what it is, man. But let's get beyond that, man. Let's talk about the brass tacks of whether or not we could be facing the orange man for another 4 years. I mean, I'm looking at the fact, and this is going to the Senate, $100 million spent to try to replace Lindsey Graham, $100 million spent to try to defeat Mitch McConnell in Kentucky, $200 million down the drain, and they weren't even close. So, you know, as a person who lives in a city where you see the kind of despair and all of those kinds of things, and to see $200 million, they can come up with $200 million to throw away like that. and yet you can't. It's frustrating to me, man. It really is. And I understand this is the way the system is set up, but the system needs to be fixed. Because to say, well, Lindsey Graham defeated Harrison 55-43. That's a slaughter. And yet $100 million is wasted. And what are we doing in this country?
Well, let me reframe this question. Earl, it was the South Carolina African Americans especially, and you had James Clyburn on your show recently. It was his endorsement that helped carry Joe Biden to the nomination. And I asked our pal, one of our friends earlier tonight, well, Bernie Sanders, I think it was Matt Flynn, your friend and mine, Matt Flynn, asked him, Bernie Sanders had just won Nevada and did very well with Latino voters, and this election not over, but as Trump carries Florida, and in no small part, that's probably because of the Cuban population. Now they would have called my pal Bernie Sanders, Bernie Castro, or something of that sort, had he been the nominee. But, a different sort of calculus was done. We traded Latino voters who favored Bernie Sanders for Southern African Americans, the African Americans in the state of South Carolina, and election cycle after election cycle. Earl, doesn't matter if you threw $1 billion at the wall in South Carolina. Unfortunately, doesn't seem to me that they're going to elect a black Democratic senator.
No, I agree with you. Well, then why spend $100 million? Couldn't we find something better to do with those kinds of resources that would make a difference? No, I get it.
Is Joe Biden supposed to build a park in Milwaukee, though, Earl? What's he going to do? He was on the TV every 30 seconds.
Well, but see, Milwaukee look, they haven't counted most of those absentee ballots in Milwaukee. They're not going to count them, and they won't be counted until early tomorrow or tomorrow morning. And I'm telling you, the state of Wisconsin is within reach for Biden.
Certainly it is.
The last time I looked, it was
better
only
be
36.
Or if Biden doesn't win Wisconsin, he's in real trouble.
It was only 36,000 votes the last time I checked. And Milwaukee is going to be the last area that they count. So I believe that Milwaukee is going to deliver Joe Biden the state of Wisconsin. That's not going to be the issue. It's going to be Ohio. We can talk about Wisconsin and Milwaukee and all those things. What are there, 10 votes? 10
electoral votes.
Electoral votes in Wisconsin.
And currently Joe Biden has 192, and currently Donald Trump has 114, although there are some states that will be awarded to Trump, and when they go into his column, it will certainly narrow the electoral college math. Now, something I find encouraging, currently Joe Biden is leading with about 60% of the vote in Iowa. Joe Biden's leading in Iowa.
How many electoral votes are there, Crudy?
I don't know, maybe 7 or 8, but yeah. Iowa, again, was a Trump state. In any state that Joe Biden picks up that was prior a Trump state just narrows the path. 6 electoral votes out of Iowa.
Right. That's a good 6 electoral votes. How many are there in Florida? 39?
Not quite that many, but yeah, I get
30, you. So, that's a big trade-off.
29 came out of New York, though, and that was a 5-minute call of the race. And California brought 55 to Joe Biden's column, and that state's in his column as well. So it's not purely about the population centers.
Right.
I mean, Joe Biden's winning the big blue states. It's a question of, can he do the electoral math in the rural states and somehow pick off?
So here's my issue. And Dominic, you let me know if I'm off base.
All right, man.
So we are white knuckling, biting our fingernails. And all I kept hearing was Joe Biden in the landslide. And either the prognosticators don't know what the hell they're doing, or we're just throwing numbers or picking numbers out of the sky.
Well, maybe we haven't counted all the votes yet either. We have a little faith in the democratic process.
No, I'm just saying, Dominic, am I off base, man?
No, you're absolutely not. Earl Ingram Jr., our guest right now here on the Devil's Advocates radio show. No, man, and I'm with you. And I guess, if you talk about the landslide, that would need to mean Texas flips, and Florida.
Right.
And yeah, could those things have happened? Yes, they could have. They didn't. They're not going to. This is going to be closer than some prognosticators perhaps may have thought.
Well, it wasn't a Mike Tyson style knockout.
I'm talking about you, Crudy.
We may have to go to the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th round.
Crudy, I'm talking
he's going to be biting ears over here. I'm going to give you the Holyfield treatment, Earl. But I think knowing how divided this country is. I mean, really, when you think about it, I guess I'm not surprised as of right now that we haven't seen a whole lot of surprises, frankly, right? Seemingly, Donald Trump seems to be holding serve and holding on in states that he won last time he needs to. There's a few exceptions there, but right now it's fairly tight, and I think that is really symbolic of what is going on and reflective of this country. There's a lot of people that think Donald Trump is doing a great job. I've heard the interviews of people who think that Donald Trump's reaction to the COVID pandemic was absolutely stellar and the phone call was fine. And there are people that support this man no matter what. So I'm not surprised that we're seeing what we're seeing right now, Earl. I'm just hoping that Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, comes through. And I think ultimately Wisconsin will.
You know what, Dominic? That's the thing that is so frustrating to me, is that we've got that many Americans who look at a man who is a lunatic, certified lunatic. Yeah. There's no question whatsoever that he's a lunatic and has mental illness. That's evident to all of us. And yet they still feel confident in saying, that's my man. What does that say about those people? And I was listening to Joe Zepecki on the show and saying, well, if we win, we've got to basically make sure we break bread with the people on the other side of this. And I'm like, it's nice to think along those lines, but the people who are on the other side of this, they got some serious issues, man, that need to be addressed. And another 4 years of this lunatic is not going to address that.
Well, their priorities are making libs cry and not worrying about solving a pandemic or providing
health care. What does that say about? But Dominic,
yeah,
that's their priority.
Yes,
not all these people dying. Come on, man.
Earl, don't feed them with your liberal tears. State of Minnesota currently going for Biden, 57 to 41%. Attaway, Gopher State, AM 950. They're listening on KTNF. You're listening on Devil Radio 92.7. We'll be back. Your phone calls, they're welcome. 844-967-2789 and more. Earl Ingram as well.
Stream the Devils and progressive news and talk 24/7 at the Devil's Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. That's DARNWI.com. That's DARNWI.com.
Hi, this is Dom from the Devil's Advocates inviting you to join us on Patreon.com. Patreon allows for our audience to access exclusive programming not available anywhere else and gives you the ability to directly support the greatest radio show ever. History's patrons have supported the works of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Monet, and now with your support, the Devil's Advocates. So please go to Patreon.com and search the Devil's Advocates to pick your subscription. That's Patreon.com and the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever.
Dave, I heard you had a solution to Russia meddling in our election.
Oh, yeah, Crudy. Community PC is Putin's worst nightmare. Voting machines are just computers, and Community PC's Tech Protect plan keeps computers safe and secure.
How can I learn more and protect my computer?
Well, to keep your computer up to date and secure, go to COMMPC.com to learn more and sign up for Tech Protect today. That's COMMPC.com. Community PC. We know what makes computers happy.
Madison, you say what? Each weeknight from 5 to 6 and Saturdays noon to 2. Don't miss out on a single day of the Earl Ingram Show right here on Devil Radio 92.7 FM, 1580 AM.
The Devil's Advocates.
Doug from Cudahy.
Right around the time of the uprising, I found you. I started listening, and 2 years later, after I signed the recall and voted, we went out to sing along with the singers on my birthday. And they were so cool, and it's one of the greatest memories that I had. And ever since I started listening to the Devil's Advocates, I have been woke. I haven't missed one vote since. You guys have really done wonders for our community, and I'm just so happy you're on the air.
Making radio great again.
Like, wow, Scoob, it's Devil Radio.
Rebel Radio.
The Devil's Advocates. Never personal, only politics.
89, the number.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show Election Night. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. You can also call us on the phones at 844-967-2789.
I think since we've had our fine guest, Earl Ingram Jr., on the phone, Joe Biden won the entire West Coast of the United States. He won California. He won Oregon. He won Washington. Earl, America is fighting the Cheeto Messiah. We're fighting the power brother.
You know what, man? Earlier, when I first came on, you kind of alluded to the fact that they made this decision to go with Joe Biden. You, myself, Dominic, none of us were feeling that. And it was something that the Democrats made a call. We were all opposed to it. And you can look at that right now and you can say, well, Joe Biden, I was listening to Matt earlier, and he was saying, well, it was either going to be Bernie or it was going to be, Joe Biden. Well, a blind man could see, if you're listening to Joe Biden or Bernie Sanders, which one has the warm body, right? I mean, but yet the Democrats made that call.
It wasn't the Democrats, Earl. It was your guy, Barack Obama. I mean,
alone.
Your recent guest on your show, you gave him the platform. He can buy the endorsement. And Barack put all of his weight on the scales. How do you think you got Pete Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar and all the rest of the Democratic field to fold their tents at just the precise right time, right before Super Tuesday? Yet Elizabeth Warren, she got to stay in for a couple more states. I mean, that was strategic math, and it was at the direction of Barack Obama. And I'm not ready, Earl. It's way too early in the evening. Let's not forget, 4 years ago at this time, they were declaring Trump the president because he carried the state of Wisconsin. And the later this evening goes, the better the chances for the Democratic Party, because Arizona looking very good. Iowa, very competitive. Joe Biden up in Iowa. And I realize it really perhaps comes down to Pennsylvania, in Michigan, and Wisconsin. But this is a different electoral cycle, a different candidate. And Joe Biden, and I've heard it put this way, far less unpopular than Hillary Clinton was.
Well, how can I argue with that? It's clearly that's what's wrong with a system where even a Barack Obama can, a person, an individual can say, this is the guy we go with. I thought it was democracy. I thought that's what we talk about all the time. We wear that on our breastplate, Dominic. It's democracy. The people speak. And then we say, well, we've got one man who can make the decision. What is this? And I think that it needs to be looked at whether Biden wins or not, this system, and that's why I call it politricks. Because what better way to explain the way this system that we claim is the best in the world, and then we have to deal with these kinds of realities, that we're dealing with right now.
Come on, man, did you just call Barack Obama a politrickster? I mean, if Barack Obama can't come out for his former VP, if he cannot be the kingmaker, well, he is the leader of the Democratic Party.
So I don't want a kingmaker. Crudy, I don't want a kingmaker. The people should be the ones who determine who the leader is in the country. That's what democracy is supposed to be about, right?
Well, then we got to get in the Wayback Machine, Mr. Peabody. Go back to Nevada and get back on Birdie Wagon.
Hey, now, how do you know about Mr. Peabody? You were a young lad back then, man.
Sherman, everybody knows about Mr. Peabody. I got kids. You got kids.
I know, man, but Mr. Peabody, I could understand Matt Flynn knowing who that is, but you? But anyway, Dom, am I off base, man?
Oh, I listen. I mean, philosophically, absolutely, and I don't know that that Barack Obama, waved his magic wand and said, "So let it be lit, and so let it be done." But certainly, he was a facilitator. Once he put his heft behind it, and they got on the other people in the party. Well, party is party, and party in and of itself is not democracy. It's a party. It's a private organization. Right. They make their own rules, and you hope they're somewhat democratic, but they don't have to be. And that's unfortunately the game in which we are living. Could there be a better way? Perhaps, but it's not going to happen between now and when the final votes are tallied. And in that same vein, when you have billionaires, giving millions of dollars to Republicans and Democrats, and as mentioned, $100 million in some of these races, yeah, that's certainly frustrating. Especially when you think about all the wants and needs and what we need to do to really support the people of this country. And people get mad about, we can't. Ron Johnson, the senator from Wisconsin, we can't put out $1,200 per family. That's just too much money. But they got no issues, putting hundreds of millions of dollars in these campaigns. I mean, no doubt about it, Earl. I certainly recognize what you're talking about, and I agree with you philosophically. But as you know, man, this is welcome to the machine, man.
I know.
Welcome to the churn.
So we need to stop telling people. Really, I honestly believe this. We need to stop telling people about the great democracy when what we see before us is not that.
Mama's calling, man. She wants you in the bed. He said all this late night electioneering is not good for your health, my friend. And we appreciate you staying up late.
Yeah, Earl, let's end on this note. Fox News is reporting Biden wins Arizona and Kelly unseats McSally.
All right.
Good news.
All right. Some good news. That's some good news, man.
Wins the District of Columbia. Now Republicans never let him be a state. Earl Ingram Jr., our good friend, tune into his fine show tomorrow between 5 and 6 p.m. Central Time at DARNWI.com, right on Devil Radio 92.7. Come back with us. You're listening to special election night coverage, courtesy of Teamsters Local 200 and the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. More of Dom and Crute, you on the phones at 844-967-2789.
Thanks, Earl.
All right.
Supplying your political fix in the back roads, WTTN 1580 AM and Wisconsin's home to Devil Radio. Stream the Devils and progressive news and talk 24/7 at the Devil's Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. That's DARNWI.com. That's DARNWI.com.
Hi, this is Dom from the Devil's Advocates inviting you to join us on Patreon.com. Patreon allows for our audience to access exclusive programming not available anywhere else and gives you the ability to directly support the greatest radio show ever. History's patrons have supported the works of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Monet, and now with your support, the Devil's Advocates. So please go to Patreon.com and search the Devil's Advocates to pick your subscription. That's Patreon.com and the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever.
Whiz Cannabis Radio is brought to you by Herbal Aspect, Madison's #1 CBD brand. You can catch the show live on our social channels. Just search for Whiz Cannabis Radio. Herbal Aspect is a local, black-owned small business. For more information, go to Herbal Aspect.
Wisconsin, and the death toll now exceeds 2,000. Wisconsin mayors keep an eye on safety ahead of Election Day. The U.S. Department of Justice is sending personnel to monitor for compliance with federal voting rights laws in 44 cities across the country, including Milwaukee. Mayor Tom Barrett said Monday afternoon that he had not been told which of the city's 173 polling locations the monitors will be at. Forecast high of 66 degrees, low of 46 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio. Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. I'm Luke Mathers with your Election Day headlines for Tuesday, November 3rd. New COVID-19 cases in Wisconsin have increased 542% over the past 2 months. The Wisconsin Department of Health Services is reporting there are 48,366 active cases of COVID-19 in Wisconsin, which DHS noted is enough to fill Miller Park in Milwaukee and leave over 6,400 people in the parking lot. Rittenhouse bond set at $2 million. Rittenhouse was extradited from Illinois to Wisconsin to face numerous charges, including first-degree reckless homicide. During his hearing, a judge found Rittenhouse to be a flight risk and imposed a $2 million bond. Tune into Devil Radio tonight for special election night coverage with the Devil's Advocates from 8 p.m. until midnight. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
I don't know if you know the Devil's Advocates, but they are kind of a big deal.
Welcome back. Special election night coverage. The Devil's Advocates radio show. I'm still calm. Hang in there. Want to thank our most recent guest, a fine one, Earl Ingram Jr. Listen to his fine show each day, 5 to 6 p.m. Central Time. You can always stream him live at DARN, darn, like darn, I stubbed my toe, WI.com, DARNWI.com. Currently, Joe Biden, 192 electoral college votes, Donald Trump, 114. But the races in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, well, currently, Trump leads in each and every one of those states. And my question is, why do you think that is? I suspect, Dom, we are seeing the tabulation of the in-person voting that happened today. I know that Pennsylvania planned to report theirs effectively. Who voted today in absentee ballots? They don't get voted until after the fact. And that, of course, makes the electoral map look much tougher for Joe Biden. Trump apparently has been awarded Florida, and Joe Biden apparently has been awarded the great state of Arizona.
And New Mexico as well. 844-967-2789. Let's get to some of our callers. Pizza Box Mike, you are up. Thank you, my friend. Happy election night. What do you got for us?
Hey, Michael.
Come on, man.
Well, the hard part in all this is that you watch these early returns, and you got these 200,000 and 300,000 vote leads, and you're waiting for all the same day vote because they did the early vote first, and you just watch it get eaten away. And of course, that that's kind of it's not fun to watch, right? You're watching Florida, you're watching Texas and North Carolina, and then they just slip away. But we haven't talked about Virginia. He hasn't come back yet in that state. What if he loses Virginia? But the hard part now is watching. Okay, so now we're watching what we think are the votes that came in today, and we've got to try and make up 400,000 and 500,000 votes out of the remaining votes that are hopefully the mail-in ones that'll be tabulated accurately. But I don't feel very good about this. I mean, it's nice to see they lost a couple Senate seats, but we're going to probably fall one or two short on taking over the Senate. I don't know. I'm not as optimistic as I think, some of the other people are.
So you were looking for a first round TKO and you didn't get it. Get over yourself, man. Come on. Donald Trump is going to lose because eventually they're going to count the early in-person and absentee ballots, and Trump's going to get his ass handed to him because the margins were overwhelming. That's how the vast majority of Democrats voted. When you see early voting numbers as large as the entire voting public in 2016, and we haven't yet seen the entirety or even perhaps any of those votes counted, well, Michael, you have little faith. Don't lose faith yet, brother. And here, AP just declared Joe Biden won Virginia. So stop whining.
Okay, so there you go. But what are you going to do if you're wrong and you see all these guys driving around?
Well, then you're going to hear Christmas music as cover while I moved straight over the southern border.
Look, you guys kind of got into it. I mean, this was way back in March when I, saw this change, this whole, what we were running on. We were running on climate change and healthcare and income inequality and racism and all Trump's done is use that to his advantage, basically, and lie to people. And what did we do? We ignored the issues and the candidates that were bringing them to the forefront. And I think that may cost us again. I hate to say it, but you want to say it's not 2016 all over again, but damn it, it is. It sure feels like it to me.
Well, we're still expecting 550,000 votes out of Philadelphia. Joe Biden currently leading in Philly, 76% to 22%. I still think there are some votes to be tabulated that are going to benefit Joe Biden, especially in the upper Midwest. I think Joe Biden's going to carry Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and eventually Nevada and Arizona, and that will be enough, Michael. And if it's not, I'm hiding out in your basement.
If it's not, you still got a radio show, but you might have to go underground.
Well, a lot of these states, they count as Curdy mentioned, you count the in-person first, and they, add up all the absentee ballots after the fact. Wisconsin, is going to be obviously over 1 million. Lots and lots and lots of those ballots have to be counted. So we're going to have to wait, unfortunately. And it would have been nice to see some early knockouts. Texas, Florida. Well, it didn't happen. So here we go. And again, not too surprising, knowing the passion of the Trump supporter, knowing how the cult reacts to their cult leader. I'm not too surprised, but I remain hopeful. Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin will go for Biden. But I think you're right. We've obviously settled compared to what we talked about last year at this time about what is important, progressive ideals versus what we're at right now. It is what it is. The votes have been cast. It's all about the counting now. Just keep your fingers crossed, Mike. And we'll talk about it some more tomorrow. Thanks for the call, man.
Mark Pocan has defeated Peter Theron in the 2nd Congressional District. Mark Pocan, congratulations. He continues to be my congressman, our friend.
We do love us some Mark Pocan. Rick from Monona, you will be next. 844-967-2789. If you want to be like Rick, welcome. What do you got for us?
Hey, Rick.
Does anybody want to be like me? But, Yeah,
I hear
I
you're
was,
super cool. You listen to the greatest radio show ever.
Oh, was I listening to another show? Anyways,
Rick,
no,
what do you
I
got
was
for
the
us before you make us angry?
yeah, okay. I was a first-time poll worker with a dozen other first-timers tonight in the Simpson Street area.
Yes, sir.
And there were a ton of people coming in to vote for the first time. You know, so I mean, and granted, that's a blue area, but you know, it was just overwhelming the people that came in, and then what are the votes, the mail-in votes. We got to tabulate those throughout the day, so we got everything in before about 8:30. But I mean, just the enthusiasm and you don't see that kind of crowd come in and that many early votes. So I just don't understand how Trump is doing this well.
But Rick, we haven't really seen the full calculation of those early votes. Certainly not Milwaukee. We're not going to see those votes till perhaps 5 a.m. tomorrow morning. But my understanding here in Dane County, here in Madison specifically, we saw historic record turnout. And the overvotes in Dane County, I mean, it exceeds 16, it exceeds 12, it exceeds 2008, the first time Barack Obama got elected. Our community turns bluer and bluer each election cycle. And we'd like to think we play some small part in that, Rick.
I was just hoping for like 1984 reversed, where Trump wins one state. You know, I mean, that's what I was hoping for. You know, granted, I mean, if you're going to dream big.
Yes,
but,
sir.
I didn't expect it to be this close. Trump should not even. I don't understand. I mean, I was in Kenosha yesterday. I saw the crowd, and I've been at other places where Trump has been, and it's incredible how many stupid people there were. When I saw people come in, their secret ballots, but I could tell who the Trump voters were. You know, I mean, you just looking at them, you could kind of tell.
Was it the "I'm with stupid" T-shirt, sir?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, like the white trash, the old men, you know, the people that looked like they were completely angry about every damn thing, you know. And we did have several Trump, because we had to go through and not count, but we were looking for write-in ballots. And there were supposed to be a couple candidates that were written in, that we had to find 7 of them through all the ballots that were brought in. So when you're looking through some of these, I actually saw a few Trump votes and Polkan votes. I don't know how that happened.
Ticket splitters.
Or they just aren't paying attention. I don't know, but it's just I'm kind of in awe of how well Trump is doing. I didn't expect him to, you know, certain states obviously, but you know, it's just he shouldn't be winning at all, in my opinion. But you know,
if your fellow countrymen had sanity, Rick, no, it shouldn't be close. The fact that we haven't already called Joe Biden's presidency is a disappointment to you, me, and all the listeners. But we're going to stay up late, and you're staying up late with us. We appreciate you doing so. We appreciate our local sponsors, Teamsters, Local 200, the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign, and of course, all the fine listeners up in Minnesota right now, AM 950 KTNF, and of course, Devil Radio 92.7 FM. Dom, more callers. Let's get to them.
LA Tom, you are next. Welcome. What are you thinking tonight?
Hey, Tom, congratulations. Hey, you guys got it right. Didn't take long to carry California.
No, first off, that's to Kelsey. Kelsey went and used my voter thing today, so she knew how to vote, so that was nice.
I hope my daughter pulled the ticket for Joe Biden, or she's disowned. Don't come home for Christmas.
Well,
Christmas is canceled.
If she didn't, then she didn't follow my voter card that I sent to her.
Well, we heard Trump, Tom, if Biden gets elected, Christmas won't be the only thing canceled. Thanksgiving, weddings, no more air conditioning, no more heat. It's going to be just pandemonium if Biden gets elected, according to the president.
Yes, I heard all of that. I'm actually still feeling confident. I believe that my home state of Wisconsin is actually going to come through for Biden. I think that Michigan and Pennsylvania will as well. I think it's early in the evening. I think we have a different world now of voting with the mail-in ballots and the early voting that we have. So yeah, I believe that we're still going to have a Biden victory. I'm a little bit upset about the Senate races because I want us to have the majority in the Senate, and I don't know.
Well, that's not going to matter a hill of beans if Donald Trump gets reelected. I mean, first and foremost, you got to have the presidency. Then the Senate is a nice secondary pursuit tonight. But right now, Joe Biden trailing mightily in Philadelphia, across the whole state of Pennsylvania, not even turning out Philadelphia in the same sufficient numbers that Hillary Clinton did. He's trailing in Pennsylvania by 14 right now.
With 50% of the votes
pretty
counted.
hard. It's pretty hard to believe because, you know what, either I live in a blue bubble and you know, that's such that I believe that the enthusiasm and everything like that was on our side. Or I don't know. I don't know which side is reality anymore, if it's the red bubble or the blue bubble, because I definitely thought that we had the enthusiasm. I thought we had the everything to make this thing happen.
Well, Tom,
yeah, I mean,
up is
Bernie
down, black
support.
is white. It's a riddle wrapped in an enigma, man.
Exactly. I agree with you on that one, Freddie. But yeah, so we'll see what happens. Mark says hi. He's waving. He's a little upset this morning.
Hey, Mark. Well, let's hope by morning on the West Coast, he won't be upset. He'll be excited about the Joe Biden presidency.
He's on a second bottle of wine.
Well done, sir.
He's not the only one, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
I know.
Take care,
guys.
brother.
See you, but
First time Tom in years didn't lead his phone call with "We the people are the government."
Well, I think you kind of stepped all over him. I think you wanted to, but Rudy's so excited to keep on talking, and we're excited for you to join us. We'll get to more of your phone calls.
I'll
after
sit
the break.
here in the penalty box for the next 2 hours.
967-2789. You can join us. Are you concerned? Are you worried? What do you think about the fact that it was not a knockout? Donald Trump is not Glass Joe. He did not go down with the body blow. It's going to be a long fight. It's going to be a long night, and we're going to spend it with you. Go until midnight. Once again, you can join us at 844-967-2789.
Dominic just told me booty calls preferred. Fellas up! It is a political party.
Got to get past Luke.
Late into the evening.
Luke will take them all.
You know, when I was young like Luke, I was pretty.
No, you weren't. I knew you when you were young like Luke.
Thank you to our local sponsors, Teamsters, Local 200, Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. Thank you to all our listeners in Minnesota, AM 950 KTNF. We ain't done yet, though. Joe Biden isn't the winner. We'll stay on the air until it's declared, or we'll declare it. Are you a small business owner or professional that would like to be featured in your own weekly Ask the Expert radio segment or show on Devil Radio? Let us help you in your business. Team with our broadcast professionals to create the right show or segment setting you apart as the go-to professional and as an expert in your field. All shows and sponsored segments are podcasted. It will be professional broadcast quality. Packages from $395. Call Devil Radio today at 608-819-TALK.
Stream the Devils and progressive news and talk 24/7 at the Devil's Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. That's DARNWI.com. That's DARNWI.com.
Hi, this is Dom from the Devil's Advocates inviting you to join us on Patreon.com. Patreon allows for our audience to access exclusive programming not available anywhere else and gives you the ability to directly support the greatest radio show ever. History's patrons have supported the works of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Monet, and now with your support, the Devil's Advocates. So please go to Patreon.com and search the Devil's Advocates to pick your subscription. That's Patreon.com and the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever.
Whiz Cannabis Radio is brought to you by Herbal Aspect, Madison's #1 CBD brand. You can catch the show live on our social channels. Just search for Whiz Cannabis Radio. Herbal Aspect is a local, black-owned small business. For more information, go to herbalaspect.com.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 2 to 5 p.m.
Thanks for the job you do. It sure showed in the Supreme Court.
But I just want to thank you guys for your program.
Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You don't get enough credit for this. We've never had a voice ever in this state.
So I think you guys really need to take a bow.
Thanks again for your work. It's really important. You need these guys. They're there for all of us.
You're welcome, everybody, and thank you. From Bernie to Biden to even Trump supporters, Devil Radio is the political fix for every Wisconsinite. Always streaming at darnwi.com.
You're listening to the radio show your mother warned you about. Tom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Happy election night. Join us on the phones. Share your trepidation or your confidence at 844-967-2789.
What's so happy about election night? So far, not happy enough as far as I'm concerned. No early knockout for Donald Trump. In fact, not a lot of good news. Joe Biden did win Virginia, and he currently leads in the Electoral College about 209. But you got to cross the threshold of 270. And so far, Joe's making a sweat. 209 for Joe Biden, 118 for Donald Trump. But there are a number of states that are currently leaning Trump. Think Ohio, think North Carolina, and even Pennsylvania. Right now, Donald Trump's got a big lead in Pennsylvania. Now, my understanding, Pennsylvania was going to report their in-person voting first. And the early and the absentee votes weren't going to come till later. And I suspect we've got something similar going on in the state of Wisconsin. Now, Luke, you were talking about Melissa Sargent's presumed new senatorial district in Madison and the lack of votes that have been reported yet.
Yeah, it looks like, I mean, at least for a few of the districts, not only Melissa Sargent's, the 16th Senate district where Melissa Sargent is running is one of the seats that looks like there's still a whole lot of votes to be tabulated. So that's a good place for Joe Biden to be able to pick up some votes still here in Wisconsin. And we're just seeing across the board in a lot of the bellwether counties along the Mississippi and in the Fox Valley where you're going to get some of those Trump Obama voters are just not tabulating their counts yet. So there's a lot of votes to be counted still here in Wisconsin.
844-967-2789. Dom, who's next?
Dick from Madison, you will be next. Happy election night, Dick. Welcome. What do you got for us?
Hey, Dick.
Well, guys, I'm kind of in the camp with Pizza Box tonight. I feel pretty deflated. I don't get this. You know, when we come out in these huge numbers, I thought we were supposed to have a blowout. But if this thing should go away, I just have to ask you one question.
Yes, sir.
Why would any candidate ever pay pollsters ever again for any of their services?
I think you're right on. I think the
Or their
pollsters know that as well, Dick. They've said, you know, as they've tabulated their polls over the last several weeks, I've read many of them say, if we don't get this right, you know, we're going to be out of a job.
And I would, well, I realize it's not an exact science, kind of like being a meteorologist. You know, we get mad at them too, but.
Yeah,
whatever.
but Gary Canalti is not going to be the president if he gets the weather off by 4 degrees tomorrow.
Cheer up, guys. Hey, now we have the Wisconsin has the distinction of having, and I said this to you guys earlier this fall. Now that Fitz has won, we have the distinction of having the two dumbest people in the history of the earth representing us in the United States Congress. And you know who they are.
Glenn Grothman and
Grothman and Fritz. Oh my God! You knew it was going to happen. I realize that, but they're both like the biggest embarrassments. I can't. I don't even.
And elected the embarrassments that were elected by the majority of their constituents, Dick.
Yeah.
Well,
you're
the
right.
majority of the constituents they picked through the gerrymandering process, because we only have 3 Democrats representing the state of Wisconsin, yet when the chips are counted at the end of the night, I suspect we'll have more Democratic votes in Wisconsin than Republican votes.
Do you think, seriously though, do you think Biden's going to be able to pull this off? In your opinion, I don't think I can stay up for it.
Well, you may have to stay up a week. Here's my only concern. Yes, I do think that Joe Biden will win the electoral process. My question is when will the litigation start thereafter? Because states like Pennsylvania and Michigan and even Minnesota and Wisconsin and North Carolina, they've all been subject to recent federal lawsuits. And if it comes down to 100,000 votes, 50,000 votes, 23,000 votes, will there be litigation?
Yeah, probably.
Probably.
Thanks for the call, Dick. 844-967-2789. Julie from Minneapolis. Welcome, Julie. What do you got for us tonight?
No, I haven't turned to alcohol yet because I'm not a drinking person. I'm doing my deep breathing. I guess I just heard
you're smoking.
that Biden is no. I just heard Biden in Minnesota only 50-some% of the votes in, but Biden's ahead about 13 points. And I wanted to throw out there, I wonder if we're experiencing, the secret Trump voters that don't want to admit they're voting for the president. I always thought if you're embarrassed or ashamed of who you're voting for, you maybe should check in with your conscience. But I don't think, I don't think they look at it that way. And how is, tell me what's going on in Wisconsin. How does it look for Biden taking Wisconsin? Do we have any idea?
Well, currently it's a hard number to predict. Currently, I believe Donald Trump's leading in the state of Wisconsin by about 2%. But in the last elective cycle, 2018, it was really late absentee ballots in Milwaukee County. A gentleman by the name of Neil Albrecht didn't report the absentee ballots until last. Well, it was 31,000 votes, the margin of victory that Tony Evers beat Scott Walker by. And I would say you look at the April Supreme Court race in the state of Wisconsin, and the Democrat, the liberal, quote unquote, beat the conservative by 163,000 votes. And overall, we had 1.9 million early votes cast in the state of Wisconsin. And I'm not sure that we're seeing those numbers yet. What we're seeing is the people that voted today. Now, I voted today. Joe Biden wasn't going to win on election day because he already banked like 80% of Wisconsin votes. I don't think we have any clear indication yet, Julie. Way too early. Give me like an hour. Got to stick around for another hour.
Do you think it'll be that? Do you think we might know in an hour to an hour and a half?
Well, I would like to see the Madison votes. We had record voter turnout in Madison, Dane County, Wisconsin. We could see as many as 20% of all the Democratic votes in the state of Wisconsin coming out of the record-setting effort in my hometown. So at least, Julie, stay up long enough to see the Madison votes. And Milwaukee probably won't drop theirs till like 3 a.m., 5 a.m. And when those are counted, when the chickens are roosting in the morning, Joe Biden will have won Wisconsin.
Julie, 36% of the votes have been counted so far in Milwaukee County. There's lots and lots of mail-in ballots to get through yet.
Thank goodness Joe Biden's doing well in Minnesota, in your state. You guys took care of business, seemingly. Come back, Devil's Advocate special election night coverage. Always taking care of business.
Stream the Devils and Progressive News and Talk 24/7 at the Devil's Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. That's DARNWI.com. That's DARNWI.com.
Hi, this is Dom from the Devil's Advocates inviting you to join us on Patreon.com. Patreon allows for our audience to access exclusive programming not available anywhere else and gives you the ability to directly support the greatest radio show ever. History's patrons have supported the works of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Monet, and now with your support, the Devil's Advocates. So please go to Patreon.com and search the Devil's Advocates to pick your subscription. That's Patreon.com and the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever.
Hi, Madison. This is Santita Jackson of the Santita Jackson Show. Every Tuesday morning at 7:30, please join Madison's own John Nichols of The Nation magazine as he unpacks the politics of the day right here on the Santita Jackson Show.
You are listening to WTTN 1580 AM Columbus and W224 EG 92.7 FM Madison. Always streaming at Talk 92.7.
AP News, I'm Tim McGuire. 4 southern states, Georgia, Florida, Texas, and North Carolina, remain among the undecided states as Joe Biden holds a 209 to 118 electoral vote lead over President Trump. 270 electoral votes are needed to win the presidency. Other undecided states are in the Midwest, Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. President Trump has been clamoring for quick vote totals from the states, but as we hear from the AP Sagar Magani, the turnout and how people voted this time will make the tabulation time-consuming.
With a record number of early voters, elections officials warn counting those ballots will take some time, meaning a nation on edge will likely have to wait. Joe Biden came into the day with multiple paths toward the 270 electoral votes needed to win. The president's been playing catch-up in some battlegrounds and can also get to 270, though with fewer options.
In the Senate, former Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper has defeated incumbent Republican Cory Gardner.
Clearly, people are saying it's time to turn the page. It's time for a different approach. It's time to start solving problems and helping people. And that's exactly what I intend to do.
His win was offset by voters in Alabama who elected former Auburn University football coach and first-time Republican politician Tommy Tuberville, ousting Democrat Doug Jones, who was elected in a special election 3 years ago. Voters in Georgia will have to return to the polls in January to decide a special election for the Senate seat held by Republican Kelly Loeffler. She and Democrat Raphael Warnock are the top 2 vote getters in the crowded field, neither one getting the 50% to win outright. Loeffler, a wealthy businesswoman, was appointed to fill the seat of retiring Senator Johnny Isakson. Warnock, the pastor of Atlanta's Ebenezer Baptist Church, is trying to become Georgia's first black senator. This is AP News.
How can we help each other and the planet during these historic, uncertain times? Did you know that there are millions of farmers in developing nations using harmful practices that not only make it hard for them to make ends meet, but also hurt the environment? The good news is there's a solution. For more than 30 years, nonprofit Trees for the Future has planted over 180 million trees and helped tens of thousands of farmers achieve independence and stability so that they're able to weather any storm. Trees for the Future trains farmers to rethink farming and use trees to flatten the curve on environmental harm while improving their nutrition and income. Let's come together to build a better future for communities in need and the planet. Learn more at trees.org/radio. That's TREES.org/radio. This message is sponsored by Trees for the Future.
Stream the Devils and progressive news and talk 24/7 at the Devil's Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. That's DARNWI.com. That's DARNWI.com.
Dave from Community PC here. Now more than ever, we're relying on our computers to stay connected with family and friends. Looking for that perfect holiday gift for a family member who struggles with keeping everything up to date? Every day, more and more people are discovering the peace of mind that comes from a Tech Protect plan from Community PC. And it makes the perfect gift for anyone you need to stay connected with. Check out COMMPC.com to learn more. That's COMMPC.com. Community PC. We know what makes computers happy.
Maxink Radio, this is Rokker. Hey, Jimmy, I've been invited to the White House, and he wants me to bring some of that guacamole? What if he double dips, Jimmy?
Double Dip with Max Inc. on Devil Radio 92.7 FM. In-depth interviews, new music, and plenty of throwbacks. Saturday, 6 p.m.
Right back to the beginning, Rokker.
Madison, tune in every weekday from 11 to 2 on Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM for the Tom Hartman program. Join the show's conversation because our democracy is not a spectator sport. Listen live right here on Devil Radio.
Listening to the Devil's Advocates may expose you to opposing views.
U.S. Senator Ron Johnson joins us on the phone regarding our military influence. Aren't we selling arms right now to Saudi Arabia, and aren't they using munitions that they have purchased from us in their war?
And if we weren't doing that, because they've got plenty of money, they'll buy less precise munitions from other people, and the bloodshed would be worse.
Well, the blood might be on someone else's hands then, Ron.
Well, I'm going to talk to you about that, Ron.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your Election Day headlines for Tuesday, November 3rd. Wisconsin's polls opened at 7 a.m. and will close at 8 p.m. If you are in line to vote by 8 p.m., they have to let you vote. What to expect on Election Day? Long lines due to social distancing and a long wait for results. Counting ballots is expected to take significantly longer than usual this election because of the unprecedented high volume of absentee ballots. More than 1.7 million absentee ballots have already been returned as of October 30th, twice as many as the total cast in the 2016 presidential election. Those ballots could not be counted until today, Election Day, regardless of when they were sent in. A seasonably warm day today, forecast high of 66 degrees, low of 46 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, Hour 7.
What?
The election night edition will keep broadcasting till we quit broadcasting. Hopefully, we'll have a announcement about the presidency of the United States this hour.
Yeah.
I'm the eternal optimist.
I guarantee you I will make an announcement this hour.
You declare your candidacy for 2024. We want to thank our local sponsors, Teamsters, Local 200, and the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. Want to welcome the fine listeners listening up in Minneapolis. At least Minnesota's doing their part.
Yes, thank you, Minnesota.
AM 950 KTNF, you are welcome to join this political party.
But your former quarterback, Brett Favre, going in for Trump, what is wrong with you people?
Perhaps he carried the state of Wisconsin on behalf of Donald Trump. I don't think that's going to happen. 844-967-2789. Going back to the phones. Until we have a final elective outcome, we're expecting you to call and keep them loaded.
Please, God.
844-96-PARTY.
Wisco Paul, you are next. Thank you for calling this evening, Paul. How you feeling, man?
Hey, Paul.
I'm probably in the pizza box, Dick's camp. I can't believe Trump is doing this well. I guess I don't know what other people see in him that I don't, but if this guy gets elected again, hey, on another note, it looks like the congressional districts in the state are going to say the same.
Well, we don't know the outcome of the
third,
the Ron Kind, Derek Van Orden race. Currently, according to the Journal Sentinel, Ron Kind, 100 and 6,835 votes. 50%. His opponent, Van Orden, 106,607 votes. The current margin, 228 votes, according to Crudy's late night math.
Well, I think the absentee ballots is coming yet, and I think that'll carry the day for kind. At least one would think it would. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Well, the assembly, that's going to stay about the same. Is there any pickups, do you think, in the Senate for our state, or is that going to stay pretty close to the same, or is it too early to even talk about that?
Well, here's an encouraging race. Alberta Darling currently at 54%. Neil Plotkin, her Democratic opponent, at 46%. Don't know where we stand in terms of ballots cast and counted.
Milwaukee County, again, that's my state senator. Milwaukee County is still reporting less than 40% counted.
Above and beyond that, a discouraging outcome, at least so far, in the state Senate District 10. Patty Shackner looks like she might be defeated. Currently, she is down to Rob Staffsholt. I'll learn his name once he is elected. He currently leads her 65 to 35% amongst the tabulated votes. Above and beyond that, let me look around. Melissa Sargent, now she's taken a handy lead in her race. She, of course, will be elected from the Madison area. Melissa Sargent at a 75% margin. Above and beyond that, Dan Fahey, Fayen looks like he will be reelected as a Republican. Go ahead, Paul.
I'm just trying to stay away from the supermajority, so at least Tony gets a veto, so we might possibly get some decent lines. Hey, and my wife just came in the room and she said, the way it looks right now, Biden's going to have to run the table with Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, because they figure he's probably going to win Nevada. And it doesn't look like we're going to take the Senate, but my wife just told me that they're talking like Thursday before they'll know the results in Pennsylvania. So I don't think you're going to be able to call anything tonight, Crudy.
That won't stop him from calling it, man.
He's been calling all week. Murder within the hour, Paul.
Hey, how's it looking for the supermajority? And then I'll let you.
Too early to tell. But if you lose the Shackner Senate seat, that would be one seat lost. And then the race, the Jen Schilling seat in La Crosse, she, of course, did not run for re-election. Brad Pfaff, he was the secretary of the Department of Ag that did not get confirmed. And he's running against Dan Kapanke, who I believe was the same opponent that ran against Schilling. And Schilling defeated Kapanke last time by 84 votes. So if that was a Republican pickup in that district, they would be 2 out of 3 they need to establish a supermajority in the Wisconsin State Senate. Of course, Fitzy's leaving, so a special election coming up in the lucky 13th.
Yeah, how's that going to go? Is this country, I just got to ask you, Cody and Don, is this country this far right where a pandemic, a major pandemic that, we have to 30% in this state, a president that lies all the time. I mean, it's so bad they run a meter on him. Are we that far right that it just doesn't seem to matter, or I don't get this,
Kind of makes you despondent, doesn't it, Paul? To think that
yes, it does.
We have so misjudged our common man that there are so many, even if Joe Biden wins tonight, that there are so many Nazis in waiting.
Come on, you just expect too much from your common man. And the accepting of the lies, right? I don't think that's necessarily a right or left thing. that says more about the leader and the followers than it does about the politics. I mean, if someone got up and lied to you constantly, Paul, I believe that you would have an issue with it. I would have an issue, but regardless of whether or not I believe with their ultimate, the philosophical politics.
But about half our neighbors don't have a problem with that,
right? And that has less to do, I believe, with the political ideology than it is to the submission to the fascist attitude.
Well, the only point I want to make is you've got, you're going to have, I don't know who you're going to have for an attorney general again. I guess he might get rid of Barr, but you're going to have a Supreme Court. You're going to keep the Senate. There's a possibility the gentleman in Montana might win, but I just can't picture 4 more years of what I just went through. I mean,
I have not prepared myself psychologically for that prospect yet, Paul, because I don't think it's going to happen. Maybe I'm trying to hold back reality like a Trumpster at this point, but I just have more faith in the American electorate.
Well, with my wife came back in the room because I've been listening to you guys on the radio because I can't deal with it, the television, but she just told me that Biden should be able to win Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. If he wins those 3 the way it stands now, he will be the next president, but it'll probably be Thursday. I think you might be right, Crudy. I don't. How does he lose those 3 states, for goodness sake? I mean,
well, the same way he lost them in 16, if it happens, the same way Hillary lost them. But Paul,
is he that bad of a candidate, Crudy? What am I missing here? I mean, I don't want to get.
But I think
Paul, you got that before midnight.
You got to think about how the votes are counted, which votes are counted, when they're counted, the absentees versus those that voted today, and the number of the absentees, and what state you're really talking about, and the losses in the expected losses states, Florida, Texas. No, they didn't flip, but they lost by less of a margin than Hillary Clinton, right? So if you take that math and you squeeze it and you push it down the line, and it comes out on Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, assuming that kind of statistical math occurs, he should be able to pull off these states. But at the end of the day, we are a divided country, right? At the end of the day, there was no turnover of the Trump faithful to recognize at the last minute that this is a despot, a fascist, a pathological liar with narcissism that we've never seen before in a president. There was no turning on the light. There was no. It was the same when people we thought, we were hopeful that when Donald Trump assumes the presidency and walks into the Oval Office, this. Imagine magic will occur and he will become more presidential. That didn't happen. The Trump voters did not come and see the light. They didn't. And in fact, in some regards, in some places, more were convinced to vote for him than before.
Currently, Paul, in the state of Wisconsin, Donald Trump leads by 110,000 votes.
Well, Milwaukee will make that up because I think. Yeah. I think it's like 5 a.m. before they count, but it's still mind-boggling. And even the state of Wisconsin here, Crudy and Dom, if the Republicans get the supermajority, I'm going to be stuck with these lines for. I'm just going to have to move 10 miles. I'll be in Madison. I'll have a Democratic. I'll have pro-can.
Why? Weed's not legal here either, Paul. You're going to have to move 45 minutes south, Paul, and then you can smoke your way into a coma. They called Illinois for Joe Biden immediately.
Right away. Hey,
no doubt about that.
Thanks for the call, Wisco Paul. Keep the faith, man. I guess for everybody out there also, I would just say this. Keep the faith. We're not over yet. Lots of votes. 45 million votes to count yet, says Drudge Report. So a lot of votes to be counted yet. But I would also say this. If Joe is able to pull it out, and I'm hopeful that he will, remember how you're feeling right now, the trepidation, right? The worry, the shock, the wonder. How can those Trump supporters still do that? How can Republicans? How come we're not doing that? How come we're in this position? Those are important things. You need motivators for after tomorrow. Let these feelings be some of them.
Devil's Advocates Election Night Special broadcasting from the Boulevard of Broken Dreams. They're not broke yet. Not yet. Stick around. We're broadcasting for the witching hour of midnight. Your calls welcome, 844-967-2789.
Stream the Devils and Progressive News and Talk 24/7 at the Devil's Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. That's DARNWI.com. That's DARNWI.com.
Hi, this is Dom from the Devil's Advocates inviting you to join us on Patreon.com. Patreon allows for our audience to access exclusive programming not available anywhere else and gives you the ability to directly support the greatest radio show ever. History's patrons have supported the works of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Monet, and now with your support, the Devil's Advocates. So please go to Patreon.com and search the Devil's Advocates to pick your subscription. That's Patreon.com and the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever.
Free and equal education is and has always been a cornerstone to this nation. Yet our public school systems, once the envy of the world, has never faced more scrutiny than right now. Caught between political bickering and big business cash grabs, our schools are under attack, and the people that stand to lose the most are our children. Join Dr. Tim Slecker and Dr. Johnny Lupinacci for Busted Pencils, Tuesday nights at 6. Each week, they take on the challenges facing our schools, teachers, and communities on Devil Radio 92.7.
Madison, tune in every weekday from 11 to 2 on Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM for the Thom Hartmann Program. Join the show's conversation because our democracy is not a spectator sport. Listen live right here on Devil Radio.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 2 to 5 p.m.
You guys are getting it done.
You boys are the light of my day, and I've been listening to you for many years.
I love you guys. You're the greatest thing that has happened to Wisconsin radio.
If it wasn't for your radio program and getting out the vote, who knows?
I got to give you guys so many props.
I'm pretty sure your guys' radio station had a direct impact on that.
You're welcome, everybody, and thank you. Devil Radio, your fix for progressive news talk from Verona to Sun Prairie. Always streaming at DARNWI.com.
Bring it? Oh, it's already been brought in. Tom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back from what should be the 420 break, but it is not. Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show, election night coverage. You can join us, 844-967-2789, trying to help everyone keep their sanity. I lost mine a long time ago, so I am here for you all.
Well, Dominic, we can look forward to a 420 break going the other way. I want to welcome our friends AM 950 KTNF in Minneapolis, Minnesota, doing their part to get Joe Biden elected. State of Wisconsin, less so. Joe Biden trailing currently here about 5 points, but many, many votes to count, and many, many of you, the fair electorate, to hear from. And my understanding, both Trump and Biden intend to speak tonight.
What?
If I were Joe Biden, I'd go out and declare victory. He's up like 100 points in the Electoral College currently. I would say, well, if we stay on this trajectory, it's a landslide. I won 2-1.
If Trump speaks, Biden should definitely speak.
Joe Biden to make statements shortly, and Trump definitely going to say something. You know that. TheGuardian.com currently reporting Joe Biden, 223 Electoral College votes. Donald Trump, 145. But Trump's going to win
Oklahoma.
Well, I think we knew he won Oklahoma. Projected win now on the NBC News. And I see the podium where Joe Biden might come out to. I'm not sure how we'll play that, but we'll do our best. We'll endeavor to bring you the Joe Biden sound, assuming he comes out to declare victory, as I think he should. First guy to declare victory wins. Isn't that how it works?
I think so.
Do the W. Get out there first, Joe.
844-967-2789. Got some callers holding. Let's get to them. We appreciate you partying along with us. It is a political party like none other. Peter from Merton, you are next. Welcome, Peter. What do you got for us tonight?
Hey, Peter.
Oh, how you doing? I'm recovering from the COVID. And of course,
hell.
I blame it. everyone in this state that went without a mask, I pretty much narrowed it down to October 20th when I voted early, and people in that line didn't wear masks.
Oh, sorry to hear that, man.
So, I'm so outraged that how can people be voting for this Trump guy with the COVID that's raging out of control in this country? I mean, it's 30% here in this state? It's just beyond me.
Peter, he's successfully convinced them that this is not a big deal. It's no worse than the flu. And even when faced with the reality of the Bob Woodward recordings, his followers just continue to discount it because Donald Trump continues to discount it.
Okay, I'm right with you. I just have one question. You think the networks are holding back on any of these states from making announcements? It's like, I don't know that all of the networks have called Arizona yet. It just
Fox
seems
News
like...
did, and my understanding is the Trump team did not like that.
I don't know, Peter. The inner workings of the media conglomerates. We just got to take it as it comes, whether or not it's 10 minutes later or 15 minutes. The good news is they all want to break it as soon as possible, so they all are motivated to do that. I would think, unless they're all in some conspiracy to not do it. But I don't buy that for 1 minute. So no, I think they generally come out when it happens.
Okay. All right. Well, you guys just keep up the good work. We need you in the state, even though you're not here in the Milwaukee area anymore. So it's a challenge for us to listen to you, but we want you to continue on.
Well, right on, Peter. We appreciate it, man. Thanks for listening. Thanks for
Stream
finding
us
us
worldwide, DARNWI.com. You can hear us tonight on AM 950 KTNF, and of course, Devil Radio 92.7. And I want to be the first one to preemptively make this prediction. Joe Biden wins the state of Wisconsin by 200,000 votes.
Congratulations.
They just got to count all of the votes.
And it's going to take time to do that. 844-967-2789. Let's get some more callers in. Joe from Stevens Point, you are next. Welcome, Joe. How you feeling, man?
Joe, you make me nervous. Just seeing your name on the screen makes me nervous. Here comes the I told you so. Let me light up the Joe Biden crow.
No, not at all. You know what, man? You guys are don't worry. The guy in Milwaukee, Peter, don't worry about it. I'm streaming on my phone. I just punched you guys up on the YouTube, and it looks like one of those old, 100-hour dance marathon where people are just dancing.
If Dom would ever lead, Joe, if Dom would ever lead.
You have some strong hands, Crudy.
Oh, man. Hey, you know what, though? For all the guys who always talk about Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers dance backwards.
Right.
That's a rough one. Huh?
Dominic's no Ginger Rogers.
You know what, though? But listen, man, I just, it's been a rough dance. I agree with you, man. I think that, Joe Biden needs to go on the offense because Trump has taken every single dirty maneuver. And we're not playing with anybody who's, fair, wants to keep things above board, and is looking at a time-honored tradition. That's all dead.
Oh yeah, that's all. It's all under the bus now. Biden going to make a statement shortly. You concur? You think that's wise move for Joe to do?
What do you think he's going to say though?
I won. That's what he should say.
He should say it.
I would just say, our internal polling say after all the votes are counted, I'm going to be victorious. So I'm just declaring it tonight, Joe.
I think it'll be a message of unity and one that will say, we're looking great. We're ahead as we speak, and we look forward to having every vote count. Get out, get in front of Trump.
Come back with us. Special election night coverage thanks to our friends at Teamsters Local 200 and the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign.
I gotta go, you don't know how it feels. You don't know how it feels. No, you don't know how it feels.
From Portage to Watertown, Devil Radio on WTTN 1580 AM is essential radio to get you through your day. Stream the Devils and progressive news and talk 24/7 at the Devil's Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. That's DARNWI.com. That's DARNWI.com.
Hi, this is Dom from the Devil's Advocates inviting you to join us on Patreon.com. Patreon allows for our audience to access exclusive programming not available anywhere else and gives you the ability to directly support the greatest radio show ever. History's patrons have supported the works of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Monet, and now with your support, the Devil's Advocates. So please go to Patreon.com and search the Devil's Advocates to pick your subscription. That's Patreon.com and the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever.
Free and equal education is and has always been a cornerstone to this nation. Yet our public school systems, once the envy of the world, has never faced more scrutiny than right now. Caught between political bickering and big business cash grabs, our school
Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. I'm Luke Mathers with your Election Day headlines for Tuesday, November 3rd. Wisconsin tops 30% average positivity rate as new COVID-19 cases continue to rise rapidly. The average positivity rate of 30.1% reported by the State Department of Health Services looks at the first-time positive tests over the last 7 days. 2 months ago, just as the state's outbreak was beginning to surge, the average positivity rate was 5.2%. Going into Election Day, nearly 2 million Wisconsinites have already voted. Turnout in this year's presidential election could blow past the state's record set in 2012, when 3,071,434 voters cast ballots, but that depends on how many voters turn out in person today. Tune in to Devil Radio tonight for special election night coverage with the Devil's Advocates from 8 p.m. until midnight. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Madison, tune in every weekday from 11 to 2 on Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM for the Thom Hartmann Program. Join the show's conversation because our democracy is not a spectator sport. Listen live right here on Devil Radio.
Stream the Devils and progressive news and talk 24/7 at the Devil's Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. That's DARNWI.com. That's DARNWI.com.
Hi, this is Dom from the Devil's Advocates inviting you to join us on Patreon.com. Patreon allows for our audience to access exclusive programming not available anywhere else and gives you the ability to directly support the greatest radio show ever. History's patrons have supported the works of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Monet, and now with your support, the Devil's Advocates. So please go to Patreon.com and search the Devil's Advocates to pick your subscription. That's Patreon.com and the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever.
Free and equal education is and has always been a cornerstone to this nation. Yet our public school systems, once the envy of the world, has never faced more scrutiny than right now. Caught between political bickering and big business cash grabs, our schools are under attack, and the people that stand to lose the most are our children. Join Dr. Tim Slecker and Dr. Johnny Lupinacci for Busted Pencils, Tuesday nights at 6. Each week they take on the challenges facing our schools, teachers, and communities on Devil Radio 92.7.
Madison, tune in every weekday from 11 to 2 on Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM for the Thom Hartmann Program. Join the show's conversation because our democracy is not a spectator sport. Listen live right here on Devil Radio.
Senator Ron Johnson talking about staying out of bars. How does that pair with your thought that schools should reopen in the fall? You got a room full of school students or a room full of bar patrons. What's the difference?
Because schools, students, it's rare, very rare to have them have a very serious medical effect from COVID.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 2 to 5 p.m.
You shouldn't have older school teachers or school teachers with some of the comorbidities.
For Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN.
Warning, listening to the Devil's Advocates may expose you to opposing views.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. I
stealing one back.
We're even, man. We're even. We are the Devil's Advocates. Election night coverage. Thank you for listening. You can always join us 844-967-2789. What? Because I get back what's mine?
Yeah, is that the way you look at it?
Of course.
Suppressing my vote. Currently in the state of Wisconsin, Donald Trump leads Joe Biden by 118,000 votes. Approximately 70% of all of the votes have been counted. They've counted about 2.5 million votes of about 3.5 million cast, and that would be a huge record. But Milwaukee County currently, only about 30% of the cast votes are currently in the vote totals. And as Chris Karnacki over at NBC mentioned, that would wipe out the entire Trump margin if you look at the earlier votes. And he hearkened back, and we've referenced this, the 2018 midterms when Tony Evers narrowly defeated Scotty Wanker. And it was the early absentee votes, the late breaking votes. I mean, Evers won like 31,000 votes. That was effectively the margin of victory, the absentee ballots in Milwaukee County. And will it be again for Joe Biden?
Well, about 36% we're waiting on have been cast in Milwaukee County, obviously waiting for a lot more. 4 a.m. is what they are predicting on NBC is when we will find out about Milwaukee County. Crudy, real quick.
So Dom is pledged to stay in the air until then.
I make no pledges.
I believe that's 4 a.m. Eastern time, though. So 3 a.m. our time.
Oh, so we can almost pull that off. Craig Gilbert
I think you should stay
reporting.
up till 4:20 a.m. Eastern time.
Journal Sentinel here in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee. Pandemic is top election issue for Wisconsin voters. Majority say country heading in the wrong direction. Almost half of Wisconsin voters say the most important issue facing the country is the coronavirus pandemic, according to AP Votecast, a survey of more than 3,400 voters in the state conducted for the Associated Press by NORC at the University of Chicago. The only partial and inconclusive election returns for Wisconsin were available at the time the story was written, but the poll of state voters provides some perspective on what's on voters' minds. Crudy, I'm not going to get into the entirety of this article, but if what they are saying is true, that the country is heading in the wrong direction, and the biggest concern that voters have going into this election is the pandemic, it's hard to imagine that Donald Trump is going to come out on top of that, since he's the one heading the country and he was the one providing quote unquote leadership for our coronavirus pandemic response.
Well, apparently America has spoken, and the coronavirus pandemics, it's a hoax.
Oh, yeah.
It'll go away right after the election.
Tomorrow, no more pandemic. Congratulations, everyone. No more pandemic after tomorrow.
No, but you make a salient point, perhaps for the first time this evening.
One of many this evening.
Of course. Many good points you make. But the point, the pandemic, it's all about the pandemic, stupid. And to our friends in Minnesota, well done. Joe Biden has been projected the winner of the great state of Minnesota, 55 to 43%, 318,000 votes.
Ooh.
The margin of victory, that's more than 1.5%. So Minnesota gets it. And I suspect when we tabulate the early votes, the absentee votes in the state of Wisconsin, in light of the fact that we're going to have 3.5 million ballots cast, Joe Biden's going to win Wisconsin. Now, Pennsylvania can't speak to it. In my understanding, right now, Biden trails in Pennsylvania, but the biggest part of that is they count the in-person ballots first, and then when they get around to it, when they're damn good and ready, they're going to go out and count the early voting, the absentee ballots.
When they get around to it. Come on. A lot of people are working hard right now, man.
Like next week.
Everybody, they would have loved to have counted the ballots earlier, But, the Republican legislature decided not to do anything for the last 200 days, make this process any easier, more accurate. They did absolutely nothing. So thank you to all the people working the polls. Thank you for staying up later than I'm going to stay up tonight to count those votes. Thank you for counting every vote, but they have to work within the rules that the legislature lays down for them, and the legislature continues to fail to lead because they don't give a damn if all the votes are counted.
Now, CNN King telling us if the current states that are leaning Republican, let's throw Florida in the Trump column, let's throw Texas and North Carolina in the Trump column. Well, suddenly Donald Trump jumps into the electoral lead, but neither candidate is yet to find a path to 270 votes. We'll see.
The gap will get a whole lot shorter once they actually throw Texas. And if Texas and Florida are not in this number that we're looking at right now, well, then certainly that gap's going to get a whole lot closer. And it's going to come down to, again, the blue wall states.
And currently, the Guardian reporting Joe Biden at 223 electoral college votes, Donald Trump at 174. And out there on the map currently, votes that, states that Trump leads and presumably will hold serve. We're talking about Florida, for example. Well, yes. But neither candidate will be at the sufficient 270 until we find out the outcomes in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and perhaps Iowa.
And we are waiting for Joe Biden, apparently expected to speak, being reported by both MSNBC, CNN. The former vice president apparently has something to say this evening. And we have something to say. We've been talking.
Too many people in attendance? They got to clear the parking lot? What's the problem? Let Joe talk.
Join us, 844-967-2789. Let's go to Ken Bob from Mount Horeb. Welcome. What do you got for us tonight?
Hey, I just got out of my car. We just got done with, we're closing down the polls here. We just finished tabulating and going through everything. So there was a mountain of absentee votes. And the absentee count was probably north of 90% for Biden, just as we were shuffling through and counting. And there was about twice as many absentees as walk-ins. Walk-ins were probably 89% Trump. That's just total thumbnail as we were sorting and counting.
Wow, man.
Just looking. But
so you're feeling excited. You think how you feeling, Ken Bob? You think this it bodes well then for Biden? Certainly, if 90% of those numbers are in, you think that's going to be replicated in some of these other areas like Milwaukee?
If the absentee ballots track anything like the absentee ballots track here, the Trump voters voted in person, the Biden voters voted absentee. I was really struck by it. I mean, I didn't expect to see that big a difference. So, and we had about 2/3 absentee, about 700, 800 walk-in votes, and about over 1,500 absentees.
And how do you think that?
So,
Ken Bob, how did that compare with the 2016 elective cycle? Roughly, votes tabulated, votes cast.
Well, we worked late because the tabulating machine got filled. Completely got filled, and so we emptied it out, and we were doing all that stuff. We forgot about the last 125 votes that were inside there, and we were all pulling our hair out trying to figure out where those votes were.
Man, right.
Oh, we got to check the machine, and then we found them all. I mean, so, yeah, the machine totally filled up. The turnout is astonishing. I think if we're 2 precincts here in Mount Horeb with 2 voting locations, we could have 5,000 votes in a town of about 7,000 people.
Ken Bob, appreciate
people vote from outside.
Appreciate your call. Joe Biden taking the stage. He's going to address a parking lot full of people honking. Let's take the Joe Biden sound, election night sound.
But who knew we're going to go into maybe tomorrow morning, maybe even longer. But look, we feel good about where we are. We really do. I'm here to tell you tonight, we believe we're on track to win this election. Yes. We knew because of the unprecedented early vote and the mail-in vote that it's going to take a while. We're going to have to be patient. until the hard work of tallying votes is finished. And it ain't over till every vote is counted. Every ballot is counted. But we're feeling good. We're feeling good about where we are. We believe one of the nets has suggested we've already won Arizona, but we're confident about Arizona. That's a turnaround. We also just called it for Minnesota, and we're still in the game in Georgia, although that's not one we expected. And we're feeling real good about Wisconsin and Michigan. And by the way, it's going to take time to count the votes. We're going to win Pennsylvania. Yes. I've been talking to folks in Philly, Allegheny County, Scranton, and they're really encouraged by the turnout and what they see. Look, you know, we can know the results as early as tomorrow morning, but it may take a little longer. As I've said all along, it's not my place or Donald Trump's place to declare who's won this election. That's the decision of the American people. But I'm optimistic about this outcome. And I want to thank every one of you who came out and voted in this election. And by the way, Chris Coons and the Democrats, congratulations here in Delaware.
John Carney.
Pardon?
John Carney.
Hey, John, the Gov. Yeah, the whole team, man. You've done a great job. I'm grateful to the poll workers, to our volunteers, our canvassers, everyone who participated in this democratic process. And I'm grateful to all of my supporters here in Delaware and all across the nation. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And folks, you heard me say it before. Every time I walk out of my grandpa's house up in Scranton, he'd yell, Joey, keep the faith. And my grandma, when she was alive, yelled, no, Joey, spread it. Keep the faith, guys. We're going to win this. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Your patience is great. Let's walk over here.
Keep the faith, says Joe Biden.
Oh, spread the faith, baby.
Spread the faith. Joe Biden apparently tired, going to bed.
It's time. Hey, it's going to be a long night, Joe Biden. Very confident about where we are. Count every vote. Everything I would expect a presidential candidate to say. I hope before we get off the air tonight, we'll hear something from Donald Trump and we can, compare and contrast in almost real time.
Oh, are you hoping for a Trump statement? you got
it.
Another 2 hours, do you?
Well, I mean, come on. He can tweet at 3:00 in the morning. Presumably he'll get up and say something. He cannot let Joe Biden steal the headlines.
Joe Biden, we believe we're on track to win this election. But I'm tired. I'm going to bed, folks.
So we'll check you guys out tomorrow.
We're not done yet. We've still got a little bit of this fine broadcast. Want to thank our broadcast sponsors, Teamsters, Local 200, and of course, our friends at the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. We're going to give you one last opportunity to respond. Joe Biden's going to bed. Dom's looking awfully tired.
And Donald Trump hasn't slept in days.
And Luke's been up since 5:45 a.m. So we're going to put this little broadcast to bed soon, but still time for your calls. Dial them up. 844-967-2789. It ain't a political party without your phone call.
Hi, this is Dom from the Devil's Advocates inviting you to join us on Patreon.com. Patreon allows for our audience to access exclusive programming not available anywhere else and gives you the ability to directly support the greatest radio show ever. History's patrons have supported the works of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Monet, and now with your support, the Devil's Advocates. So please go to Patreon.com and search the Devil's Advocates to pick your subscription. That's Patreon.com and the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever.
Whiz Cannabis Radio is brought to you by Herbal Aspect, Madison's #1 CBD brand. You can catch the show live on our social channels. Just search for Whiz Cannabis Radio. Herbal Aspect is a local, black-owned small business. For more information, go to herbalaspect.com.
Max Inc. Radio, this is Rokker. Hey, Jimmy, I've been invited to the White House, and he wants me to bring some of that guacamole? What if he double dips, Jimmy?
Double Dip with Max Inc. on Devil Radio 92.7 FM. In-depth interviews, new music, and plenty of throwbacks. Saturday, 6 p.m.
Right back to the beginning, Rokker.
Madison, you say what? Each weeknight from 5 to 6 and Saturdays noon to 2. Don't miss out on a single day of the Earl Ingram Show right here on Devil Radio 92.7 FM, 1580 AM.
Eric Holder, he's the former U.S. Attorney General and current chair of the National Democratic Redistricting Committee.
The notion that Scott Walker is saying that we are doing something to push partisan gerrymandering, that is the pot calling the kettle total black. I mean, that's absurd. He is one of the architects of among the most gerrymandered states in the Union. All we're pushing for is a fair process come 2021.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. Supplying your political fix on the back roads from Sauk City to Beaver Dam on WTTN 1580 AM, Devil Radio.
The Devil's Advocates. We drink when we toast when we drink.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, last segment of the evening. So if you got something to say, pick up the phone. Give us a call right now, 844-967-2789.
Now, Donald Trump is claiming they're trying to steal the election. The most predictable headline of the evening. Apparently, Fox News called Arizona for Joe Biden primarily because Joe Biden's up like 8 in Arizona. And Mark Kelly also declared
8%.
8%.
Yeah.
But tonight, Joe Biden came out and said, we feel pretty good. Keep the faith. We're going to win this. I would have declared victory right there. I'm up by 100 electoral college votes. Rough math. I've doubled my opponent.
If you engage in the same behavior as someone you find is morally repugnant, does that not make you as morally repugnant?
The fact that it's nearly midnight and Joe Biden
is still awake is quite amazing. I mean, look, he had a pep in his step, man. He was feeling good.
Joe Biden is trailing in Wisconsin, Michigan, and by a large number in Pennsylvania. And I get the whole early voting, late voting. Ken Bob told us what? The
90%.
Early votes overwhelmingly Biden, but the in-person votes overwhelmingly Trump.
But not overwhelmingly enough. And that's going to be the math here, man. That's what's always going to be the math. That's what everyone knew the math was going to be. We knew it was going to take some time to count some of these ballots, and Milwaukee's going to come through strong.
Okay, my question still, what the hell is wrong with our nation that it's midnight? We don't know that Joe Biden's going to be the next president. What the hell is wrong with you people? Not you people, but broadly, you people. What's wrong? Let's get to the phones, Tom.
844-967-2789. I guess it's rhetorical. Dale from Arlen, Texas, you are up. Welcome, Dale. What do you got for us tonight?
Hey, Dale.
Hey, Joe. Hey, guys. How are you?
Good, sir.
Good, sir.
Well, hey, quick question. If Biden does, in fact, win tonight, how many kids do you think he'll sniff to celebrate?
How many kids Was
that was
it?
a troll call.
Oh man, that was it. That was weak, man. You know, if you're gonna troll us at midnight, I think you'd at least drop an F-bomb. That's pretty weak, dude. You know, come on, Texas. I thought you'd represent better than that after running, the Biden bus off the road.
And don't encourage any of our liberal friends to drop an F-bomb. Don't give them bright ideas. Let's take a few more calls while there's time at 844-967-2789. And the F in FCC doesn't stand for F-bomb study, Eddie. Be careful. Be kind.
Hey, Eddie, welcome. What do you got for us?
Oh, hi, guys. I think Joe Biden's going to win Wisconsin, and he might just win the whole thing. But what worries me most is that you guys, Dom and Cruder, going full Betsy on doing math on the radio tonight.
Well, what, should we not do math? Is it too much? It is a lot of numbers, man. I know numbers don't generally translate well on the radio. It is a lot of math. It's hard to keep track, especially if you don't have like a map in front of you.
Sadly, Donald Trump has just been checked. He is the winner of the great state of Iowa.
As is Joni Ernst. Eddie, no big surprises, but you're still generally hopeful. Did you hear Joe Biden tonight? Did you hear him keep the faith? Did you hear that message? And how you feeling right now?
I'm feeling like there's a 50-50 chance, maybe 51-49, that Joe will win. They were saying on TV that Trump would have to win 2 of 3, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, 2 of those 3 to really win. But so I'm hopeful. How about you guys?
I remain hopeful, man. All cautiously optimistic, as I've said for the last couple of weeks. Eddie, thank you for the call, man. Thanks for staying up late. Thanks for caring and doing what you do, man. But at the end of the day, guys, right? This comes down to not our vote, but our neighbors' votes, our families' votes, our friends' votes, and hang on to it. Let it motivate you. Let it drive you, because we got to continue to do this, no matter who wins. And I hope it's Joe. No matter who wins, the Trump supporters will still all be there. All those people we met in Kenosha, they're still going to be here. Everyone is still going to be here. No matter whether or not Donald Trump is in the White House or not, we're still going to have to deal with our neighbors and family.
When we put the people to bed tonight with their stress and their fear, let me give them one last glimmer of hope. The voter turnout numbers in Dane County, where we're broadcasting from tonight.
Yes.
Voters in Wisconsin cast their ballots in record numbers, either at the polls Tuesday or through absentee voting ahead of time. In Dane County, nearly 339,000 votes, about 79% of the county's voting age population were counted Tuesday night, with most precincts reporting results in 2016, about 311,000 votes. So we got about another, and here's some more math on the radio. Sorry, man. 28,000 votes out of Dane County since 16
total votes, and
about 10% more votes than we cast in 2016,
and a certain percentage of that will be for a Republican.
A small, insignificant percentage. Dominic, in Madison, more than 158,000 votes were counted, according to the Dane County data, representing 74% of Madison's voting age population. And statewide, as of 11 p.m., 2.3 million ballots had been counted, representing about 40% of the voting age population, although many more were yet to be counted. In 2016, about 66% of Wisconsinites voted, the lowest level in a presidential election since 1996. I did not vote in 96. That was Bill Clinton.
I didn't vote in 96 either.
Luke, you were... Were you even alive in 96, man?
I was alive in 96. I was only 2 years old, though, so therefore I also did not vote in 96.
The early math I saw of the state of Wisconsin, I'm going to set aside this now, 3.5 million votes. That'd be a hell of a lot of votes. And I think that means that Joe Biden won the state of Wisconsin. I have been presuming for a long time that all these early votes, all these engaged Americans, that had to mean that Joe Biden would be the next president of the United States.
Yeah.
But as we put the people to bed tonight, many of them, they will not sleep well. But we put you to bed wondering, who's going to be the next president of the United States? Will Joe Biden win the state of Wisconsin? Will Batman and Robin get back together in season 7? I want to thank all our fine guests this evening. They included Matt Flynn, James Santel, Joseph Pecky, Earl Ingram Jr. I want to thank our fine producer, Luke Mathers. I want to thank Don for coming down to my hometown, where we actually turn out the voters here in Madison. I want to thank you all for listening. KTNF 950 AM. Thank you to all the fine Minneapolis listeners. Now, we hand it off to the evening and the vote counting. And Luke will be back at 3 or 4 or 5 a.m. to tell you how it all turned out. Go to bed tonight, wake up tomorrow, and, by like a week from Thursday, Joe Biden will be your president. Thank you once again, Teamsters Local 200 Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. Thank you all. Have a good night. Trump is still the president, as far as I can tell.
Wash your hands, avoid sick people, and touching your face. There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. Brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Do you know the Devil's Advocate started as a podcast, just two buddies talking into an iPad because we thought we had something to say. Do you have something to say? Let Devil Radio guide you. Launch your own broadcast quality podcast. Utilize our studios and staff, our hosting platform, and we will even promote your podcast on Devil Radio. Monthly packages start at just $295. Devil Radio's podcast platform to launch immediately after the election. Call today to learn more. 608-819-TALK.
Hi, everybody. This is Santita Jackson of The Santita Jackson Show. Every Thursday morning at 7 o'clock,